Hey guys, Robert here, and I got with me for a returning visit, Liana K. Liana, thank you so much for doing this again.
Hello.
And you can see in the background, I'm at my parents' house watching my brothers. You can see one of my dogs back there. I have another one that you probably saw walk off. She'll probably be interrupting during all this, so bear with me. But I'm sure Liana could carry over if I have to do something to deal with them.
You guys can see my gigantic mess in the
Yeah.
background. It's application season for money, so
Yep. So, well, not only that, you also have stuff going on with boss fight for what I saw in your tweets, where your computer.
today was not fun. Today was not fun.
Yeah.
Managed to get the output done needed. I needed, but that blue screen of death was scary.
Oh, I saw that. I
Scary.
saw your tweet.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yep. But
Yeah.
but as you saw from our, we're gonna be all over the place. What else is new? But we're gonna start off talking about the He-Man, the new one, and how everyone seems to have gone quiet.
Yeah.
You notice that? It seems like
Yes.
people first started backpedaling. Some were trying to say stuff like, "Oh, yeah, I don't like it," but then nothing. And I'm seeing some people saying Tila's not mannish. What?
Well, that's true.
Oh no, that's true. But they're changing their tune, is what I'm saying.
But Tila, are we talking about the adult one or
Oh,
the
the adult one.
Clone
The adult one.
Wars, the show I'm calling He-Man Beyond
Yeah.
because it's Batman Beyond of He-Man.
They were talking about the adult one, saying, you know what, looking at it again, it's not that mannish. It's like,
Okay, fine, good. People are allowed to change their minds.
oh yeah,
right?
I agree, but you gotta wonder.
Sometimes it happens that something is not your expectation and you need a bit of a chance to get used to it, and then you come around to it. That's totally fair. It's awesome. That's also why you shouldn't go crazy on random people on the internet when you don't like something.
Exactly.
I just saw Free Guy last night, and I'm still trying to figure out what I feel about that movie, because it you have to take your game developer hat off with a movie like that and recognize it's not a real.
So many things in there. You're like, wait, you couldn't do that in a real game. It's like, no shit.
It's just not how AI works either. Like,
the general
adaptive learning AIs. But it was one of those movies that used technology to make a point about the human condition. It was so silly, but there were certain things I was just like, I think part of my problem is I think I expect so much from Ryan Reynolds at this point that I'm super not fair. But this is me checking my urge to focus on the things I didn't like about the movie instead of the things I really did like about the movie. So I'm setting an example here, right?
I get it.
And so I don't want anybody who had a bad reaction to think, our enemies forever, all that stuff. No. It's totally cool for people to change their minds. There's nothing wrong with being caught off guard by something, especially with something you were really stoked for and it didn't meet your expectations.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've been there. I have been there before, where it's like,
sure.
I mean, I'll be honest. Until Batman v Superman, any movie I went to, I liked. Even Man of Steel. Looking back at that, although I would say this, mostly because I was willing to give Man of Steel the benefit of the doubt. Now that I know where Zack Snyder was going with it, I do not like it anymore.
Right. You retroactively like it less. That's interesting.
Yeah, because the Paul Kent stuff.
Oh yeah.
Now knowing this is where he was going with it, no thank you. No thank you at all. But even with Batman v Superman, that was the first time I ever dealt with a movie that I would sit down and watch, and I didn't love it during my viewing experience. I felt like there's problems. There's stuff cut out. There is stuff cut out, and that's just how it was.
Because I am so it's hard for me to admit I'm over superheroed based on how deeply involved I am in superheroes, but
Mhm.
I think I might be over superheroed.
Oh, I could believe it. I could believe it. You think it was never going to happen? It's inevitable.
The release schedule is the movies and the shows are all so samey, right? And it
Oh,
makes me I actually started questioning sort of my love of a lot of the Marvel Phase 1 things
mm-hmm.
where and I went back, it's like, no, every single one of those movies had a very different character and they
Yeah.
were what they were. I wasn't imagining that. Uh, but the landscape has changed, right? I very much enjoyed Suicide Squad. I like
Oh, I
Suicide
did
Squad a
too.
lot. Yeah.
I think that's the one thing. If DC can keep someone like a James Gunn, someone who actually has a good vision and handling the characters, we can go forward. And they keep doing something different. We could be in a better place at DC. But that's a
Well,
big if.
they
That's a
have
big.
DC has to hire people and then let them work, right?
Yep.
Now that doesn't mean let them do whatever they want. There are
Oh no,
certain
that's what
yeah.
That's what we got with Zach. That's what we got with Zach. Let him do what he wants, and
Yeah. Oh, well, not really, because then they totally recut his
oh well,
movie
I meant
into
when he shot it. When he shot the movie.
yeah. They should have pulled it back. They should have went like, look, you don't need to shoot 6 hours. We only want a runtime of 2.5. You know, that stuff should have been agreed to before they started production.
And we also don't want the movie to end with, if we go by what his storyboard said, we want to end still with Flash and Wonder Woman and everyone's still viable for other movies. We don't want to end this 20 years in the future and we have no universe to go with.
Yeah, I don't know what that movie had more endings than the Lord of the Rings. Like it was like when they were all standing there and it's a big iconic moment and scene, I'm like, all right, I enjoyed that. And then it kept going. I'm like, what is going on? Apparently Margot Robbie didn't even know her character was killed off screen and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on? But it's tough. Like, it's tough. There's so, especially with film, there's so many compromises that you have to make to just get anything on screen.
Exactly.
Right?
There's a reason why you're not going to ever see a 1-for-1. You even some exceptions, like Sin City, but that's because Robert Rodriguez saw it as storyboards, nothing more.
And I didn't like that because I was sitting there reciting the comic book while I was watching the movie, and like that one scene in the middle that was different. All of a sudden I was like, oh, okay. And then, oh no, we're back to, I'm sitting in the theater going, little Nancy Callahan. She grew up, she filled out. And that there's a shining example of dialogue that was written to be read, not dialogue that was written to be spoken.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Definitely. I mean, the only advantage I would give that is that, and a lot of it's because of Jessica Alba outright refusing to be doing naked. That's the reason why she's in the cowgirl outfit and everything, which I can appreciate because it still looked good on her. And what you got to give is that her skin tone was so unique that the black and white would not work properly. So they want to make sure we want to still see her unique skin tone.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, if you want nudity, there's, stuff like OnlyFans, but no, not for long, right? We live in interesting times.
We live in very interesting times.
We live in interesting times. It's that old curse. May you live in interesting times.
Yep.
But yeah, like getting back to the He-Man thing, I'm glad some people are softening on it, though I maintain, and I said this, I think on Friday, in the video I made about it, that, we're in Act 2 of Netflix's evil plan.
Yep.
That,
which was
they
reveal the troll.
You do something knowing people are going to freak out, drop something on people that it's an even further departure from the source material, and then bring back the back half of the adult cartoon, which is going to be an absolute straight up return to form, and everyone cheers. Right.
Yep,
and
definitely.
I am not sure it's going to work. I think it may, just because of how utterly beaten down people seem. And I'm not laughing because I find it funny. I'm laughing just because sometimes you gotta laugh because the alternative is just too depressing.
Definitely. And I do think that it's going to succeed. The way it's going, the way that this came right out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we knew of it. We didn't know anything else about it, really. All we heard and knew was from when Rob David said we want something closer to the fans. I did not think in my wildest dreams there was going to be this deviating, like combining Tila with the sorceress. I mean, granted, both Tila, but you know what I mean there. And then
everything has to be Clone Wars now. Everything has to be Clone Wars. It's the Watchmen of streaming cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of going, oh, Clone Wars works, so make your own interesting, dynamic universe. Everything's Clone Wars. Even the Captain Britain episode of Marvel What If is cut. Like the voice technique is Clone Wars. I was really glad the second one wasn't.
Yeah.
Because
I did like the facial expressions though on that, at least. Maybe not the way the
voice
were.
I like the episode. I'm just not a big fan of that very clipped Clone Wars voice acting.
You saw it too.
There's a reason. People, I mean, that's the standard now, right? It's and you know, people learn a particular technique and they're like, this is popular, make that over and over and over again. And it is very hard to not make that. I just, you know, I put it in the Batman Beyond categorization because Batman Beyond was much more, you know, in the future, technically advanced Batman, right? And this looks the same. I mean, I think the thing I was just like, this is too far for me. It was Orko as a robot.
Yeah, and again, but I still, the moment I saw that whole trailer, the first thing that went through my mind was, and they were complaining about Revelation. That was the very first thing.
That is what they want people to think, and the press just jumped on board, and they're like, why not totally reimagine He-Man for a new generation? And my answer to that is, now, let me finish here, because some people are going to have issues with it, but my answer for this is, because it's not He-Man anymore.
No, it's not.
Right? If you want to create something new, create something new. But
exactly, because even She-Ra was closer.
Because She-Ra was still in the same basic setting. Right now, I have challenged myself on this because it isn't that there weren't robots and like technological elements and everything like that in He-Man. I mean, you can see the Strider in the background.
Oh yeah.
There were robots in He-Man. I got a Roboto, but it was like 60-40 fantasy, sci-fi, and now it's like 70. It's like 30% fantasy, like Conan type stuff, and 70% advanced tech sci-fi.
Oh yeah. I mean, it is not even. It's like. Now, if they set this way in the future and these are the descendants, I could accept it. But there doesn't seem like they're doing that at all.
No, you can't have everybody have the same name and still be descendants.
Exactly.
Like there must be something in the license that they can't create new characters. That they have to make pre-existing ones and just use them. It must have something to do with toy distribution.
The last one, remember though, the last new kid we had was Sir Laserlot.
Yeah, and that wasn't for this. I mean, they went back, you know, because even all the little like in pre-Eternia, all the past He-Mans and the former sorcerers, they're pre-existing characters, right? Like, okay, one was a Wonder Bread mail-away exclusive, but he still existed, right?
Yep.
So there's
Andra, of course.
Well, Andra, and it was funny. This, I was like, come on. Somebody who was really against Revelations tried to argue to me that Black Tila wasn't the Tila. She was a Tila. So it's not a race swap. And I'm like, come on.
What?
Come on. Like,
this
come
is the
on.
same people who complained. And I kept telling them, it was in the comic, very minor character. Oh, you're saying very minor character, but you're downplaying her.
But I said they never say a last name. It's not the same backstory. It could be an Andra, not the Andra. Like, it's the same argument. And to the guy's credit, he went, "You're right. This is a bad argument. It's a race swap, right?" And you know what? I am not inherently opposed to race swaps.
Oh yeah,
they happen. Okay. there's sometimes it makes sense. Like
Mhm.
traditionally now in classical Shakespearean theater,
Oh, yeah.
the Duke in Much Ado About Nothing is played by an actor of color, just
Mhm.
because Denzel Washington did it in a movie, and so it's now okay, right? But anybody tries to race swap Othello, I'm sorry, no, right? Like
Yeah.
the play no longer makes sense, and
It's when they change it, not realizing it. Like the Powerpuff Girls, the CW almost did. And they had the professor be black, but then you hear about what they have planned for him. You're like, do you not realize the implications you're doing?
okay, here is my concern with people normalizing race swaps.
Mm-hmm.
I love John Stewart Green Lantern.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think he is the best Green Lantern. I think the utilization of him in the comics, I like the way his powers work. I like the way his imagination works.
Mm-hmm. He's an architect.
Because he's an architect. Right. He would actually know.
And a soldier,
right.
yeah.
He would actually know how these things work. He would actually know how guns fire. I thought that was really, really smart.
Mm-hmm.
When they made a movie, was it the John Stewart Green Lantern? No, it wasn't. It
Nope.
was that was Ryan Reynolds, wasn't it? Oh my god.
Yeah. And until he saw the movie recently, he kept dumping on it. Then he finally did
that was
a live. He did a
that
live
was
tweet,
really
and
funny.
he's like, "Yeah." And he then said, "You know what? Maybe I've been too harsh on it."
Oh no, he wasn't. That Green Lantern was a terrible, terrible, terrible movie.
And I found out Jeff Johns did not have as much control of that as people thought. Turns out he was barely involved.
I'm not a Hal Jordan fan. Jordan fan.
I understand.
Yeah.
But I like him because of Jeff Johns.
But
beforehand, he bores me.
Yeah.
Before Jeff Johns, boring.
This is the issue though, right? John Stewart Green Lantern is never going to be the first pick, right?
No.
Riri as Ironheart, like
Oh.
everybody knows it's not Iron Man, right? Like even Miles Morales, you don't call him Spider-Man, he's Miles Morales, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And he's a cool character in his own right.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as, say, Black Panther.
Exactly.
Who was created to be black. He's always been black.
Exactly.
Shang-Chi has never been white.
Exactly. And it's like with making a black Clark Kent. How many people have actually been saying, no, give us Calvin Ellis, give us Val Zahn. We don't need a black Clark Kent.
I actually am very glad that Superman and Lois didn't do what they did, because John Henry Irons is a friggin' badass.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that last time.
Such a badass. Yeah. And see, there you go. He's John Henry Irons. He's always been black. He's his own thing. They totally changed his backstory, of course. But to the most part, I mean, his daughter's still the same name and all that stuff. He has the same
actually, and that's his niece in the comics. Though.
Right. But the fact that they kept the what the heck is it? Justice League Infinity or something like that, but they kept that armor. I thought that was quite cool. Yeah. Yep. But see, that's something that people can relate to. That's always going to be that, right?
Yeah.
It's never going to default. Black Panther has to be black. John Henry Irons has to be black. You know, like Shang-Chi has to be Asian. You say
that about Black Panther having to always be black, but you have some people, not going to name their names, who are trying to do it. But when you look at it, you're like, okay, one's a golden age Black Panther. So this is not the one we're talking about anyway.
Yeah, it's not the same character.
Exactly. And the other one was the ultimate Black Panther. There was still a T'Challa, but the first time and he's still out there. The time we saw him in Ultimate 3 was Steve Rogers posing as him.
Right.
That's it. That does not mean, Black Panther was white. No.
That doesn't mean that Magneto is now permanently Zorn, right? No. Like it was a fake out. But I really think that this tendency towards race swaps is denying communities that deserve more representation of characters that are just theirs. And I feel really strongly that all groups of people deserve, characters that their kids can look at and go, that's me. It sets your expectations for life, right?
Yeah.
And it gives you role models of, I know growing up not having any role models that I could really connect to. Not even Tila really worked for me, because it was just like, well, I'm not I don't know any royal people,
Right.
I don't have a hookup with a royal family. I can't be
That's where
that.
I find this whole one for one bait has to be just like, cause tailor made to me.
Yeah.
I don't ever buy when I ever hear people say that. It's the close enough. I mean, how many women out there were inspired by Superman, and not Supergirl, but actually Superman? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You show me your ring.
Yeah, I could never be Supergirl. I'm Superman straight up. There's a
You
Power
can be Power
Girl.
Girl.
Power
You can be
Girl.
Power Girl.
But Power Girl's a totally different character, right?
Technically, if you
Well, she's
want
Earth 2. She's Earth 2, but she's rougher around the edges. She's into computers, stuff like that. We need these, and that's why I like these ensemble films so much, right? Like, I love freaking Polka Dot Man. It's Suicide Squad, because oh my god, like
they had to change it completely, but I loved it.
People with utterly fucked up childhoods now have representation.
God, to stop with his mom. That actress is going to be, and I'm just like, who the heck is she? Okay. I looked her up. I
love that. I love that though, because it's not the dad for a change, right?
No, it's not. It's the mom.
Yeah, I love that.
I think that because it led to that. That's your mom.
Well, because you already had the bastard dad with Bloodsport, right? They weren't going to have two, so I just thought that was
sweet dad was Ratcatcher. You had the bastard dad with Bloodsport, but the only thing we didn't have was a sweet mom for any of the others. Like, what if King Shark's mom was a sweetheart? For all we know.
That's very possible. I mean, I guess people with stable moms don't become supervillains. Maybe that's the hot take. But there are lines and there are reasonable things that we can talk about. I do think you have to justify some of this stuff, and I do think that it's going a little overboard when they could have made a new He-Man, because there's nothing. Whoever has the sword is the guardian of Grayskull, right? It's more like Green Lantern than it is like Superman or Batman.
Exactly.
Right?
Or Shazam, because there were other champions. There were other champions. Yeah.
Right. Well,
we only know two of them, but
right. Well, it used to be named Captain Marvel, which was different than Black Adam, but now now Shazam is no longer the Wizard's Shazam.
Well, it's both. So but you have to say it a specific way to trigger it.
Right.
You have to mean it.
I enjoyed that movie. I still can't get used to.
Someone's bringing up a good point. I don't like how black actors being cast to play redheads, except when the actor is truly the best to play a particular character. The whole redhead genocide. Yeah.
This is complicated. We didn't talk about this last time?
No.
I think you might about this last time.
No, remember, we stuck mostly the He-Man, most of that. We did go a few tangents, but yeah.
Do we want to do the business reality of it, or sort of the artistic?
A bit of both. I would say a bit of both.
I'll start with the business. Okay. There just aren't enough me's. There aren't enough ginger kids. To sell toys to.
Even I know that. I mean, the only thing you do is now people could say, why not put? Oh, that could sell toys to. Yeah, because it's
could sell toys to. Yeah. Like, let's face it. Okay. The reason there's
redheads in comics than there are in real life
because of Stanley's wife. Okay, right. That's where it all comes from. Bless Joni. But and Dan DeCarlo. Those two roots, right? But there are certain ones that really, really sting me. Right. It took me a while to get used to Lana Lang, but that's not super important. I'm okay with, like, now she's either. What's her name? Kristen Crook is part Indigenous. What's her name? Emmy Shikri. She's great in the part, right? That's not essential to that character.
Not like Lois being, even Lois has fluctuated between black and brunette. Yeah,
we took one back and it wasn't terribly great.
Well, no, I said even the comics though, they fluctuate. Sometimes she's black hair, sometimes she's a brunette. Sometimes.
But here's the thing, right? They never hire gingers to play, say, Black Widow.
No,
and that's the point where I'm like, being a ginger is not just about having red hair. I am sitting way back from my light right now, because if I sit forward, I freaking glow. Okay, I've got the freckles, I've got everything like that, and if you're not, my camera just went crazy, because what is this? This is not a human skin tone. But the minute it's a brunette in a dye job, I don't care anymore because
Right. I
the
still find the
being
biggest irony was Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane, a blonde having to dye her hair red, and then in Spider-Man 3, you had Bryce Dallas Howard, a redhead, having to dye her hair blonde to play Gwen.
Was it Bryce Dallas Howard or Emma Stone?
No. That's in
that's the Andrew Garfield one. Oh my god, I can't keep it straight.
Yeah. But even that one though. But even that one, they had to dye a redhead blonde.
See, that's the thing. To me, there's no difference than hiring a blonde and dyeing her hair red than Zendaya, right? Like I'd rather it go to Zendaya than ScarJo or I like Emma Stone. So, but I mean,
I loved Emma Stone.
I don't think she's a natural redhead. Is the thing. She was Gwen Stacy, not Mary Jane. So confusing.
Yeah, but when you look at her assignment like Easy A, where you do see her red hair and everything,
right? But we're not.
I felt like MJ. I felt like MJ there. When you see her.
We're just a minority that's too small to complain, and I understand the diversity urge in some people, even if intellectually I do go, well, I connected to characters for other reasons. Hi, Tris. But then we get to exceptions to this rule, right? That I actually will defend the swap. And the big one to me is the Little Mermaid. Right? I do not believe
she wasn't even redhead in the comics in the original story. I mean,
she was blonde, but also in a live-action Little Mermaid, if you don't race swap her, you're going to have a bunch of white people singing calypso tunes. We can't have that, right? I mean, la don't stop now. You can't even sing that song with the accent, right? So at that point, it's how you gonna fail, right? It's like it's like trying to do anything with an Asian theme in Marvel. You're going to piss off either the Chinese government or Tibet or Nepal. So you cast Tilda Swinton. Okay.
But she did a good job, though. You got to at least give her that. It was a very different job, but she did a good job.
And it was one of those things where I do think, again, it's the same idea, right? I would rather Zendaya than a blonde in a dye job or a blonde in a wig.
Right. At least with MJ in the Spider-Man movies, it's not Mary Jane.
Yes,
it's
MJ.
And I think Fahey knew they weren't going to try and go for Mary Jane and get a redhead. MJ, there's no way in hell. I don't think any character, if there's any one character who is predominantly redhead, that you would have a shitstorm if you didn't make her a redhead. It's Mary Jane.
That's one of those ones. I agree. That's one of those ones where it's just the history of the character and what she represents. Yeah, you got to keep that.
I do think MJ in general. Yeah.
Well, okay, let's face it too. That was the third bite at the Spider-Man apple as well, right? Like if you've rebooted that, it's and she's not just a different look. She's a very different character. I actually kind of buy. I'll finish this thought and then answer this question.
No, I know. That's why I was putting it up.
I really grew to like the Zendaya take on MJ because with all the crazy shit that was going on, Tom Holland being all like, "Oh, gee whiz, she's a character. She's a personality. She's somebody that has a character voice. I can stick to her. I'm so sick of average girl we put in the awesome box in action movies now. She was a character. She was a personality. You can like her. You cannot like her.
Like Mary Jane in any version.
But there's something there, right?
That's what I was going to say was there's something there. Yes.
Yeah. And so I'm good. And I love Ned. I just love Ned.
I like now. He's the ultimate version. Anyone complain there, you say that's ultimate Ned. So I have no complaints there.
I love Ned, but I like the new Spider-Man movies, the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, way more than I'm comfortable with because normally I just stay away.
They're so different.
Well, normally I stay away from underage guys in spandex, like just I keep saying 20s. But I try to sort of avoid the teen stuff, but every so often I watch something and really, really like it. And I like the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. I just do. I think he's wonderful in the character. They do interesting things. I like the reimagining. So
Tristan makes
yeah,
a very good point there.
yeah.
Also, she asks, "What about Poison Ivy?" She's got a point. Poison Ivy is predominantly redhead. You can't avoid that either. But
Okay, that's an artistic one though. The
true.
entire color scheme, it's the same way with Black Widow. The
Oh
entire
yeah. Oh,
character
how many times did they
design,
change it?
well, the entire character design though does not work because it's the color wheel, right? It's like you got the red, you got the green. Um, it doesn't
Significant green eye redheads. There's a
it
reason why.
doesn't look like Poison Ivy anymore if you don't have that, right? It's like, oh, take the
Exactly.
mask off of Catwoman, right? You don't
hmm
recognize her anymore.
Exactly.
So going back to this question about
It is a fair question though, because it does seem to always go right for the blacks to the point where they've made a joke out of it.
again, business. It's a completely cynical answer, right? They want emerging black middle class money. Asians are starting to make noise about it. The problem with Asians obviously have their own media, right? There's plenty of Asian representation in Asian Americans get caught between American and Asian. And the Asian American experience is different from the Asian experience. And I mean, some people think Simu Liu's been a little too woke about the stuff with Shang-Chi, but I do think that it's fair for him to say, no, this is ours. Like, this is ours and it's important. Chadwick Boseman was a little more on the down low about it while they were making it.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. But
I want to say, wait, that was one of the biggest blows. And I mean, I really appreciate the guy. I didn't realize how much I appreciate him until he was gone. I was like, I can't believe I'm feeling this bad.
It hurts. You
did not realize that you were feeling that pain until he was gone. And
everything he was in was so good. I don't know if you saw Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, but
no, I've not.
Excellent.
The only thing I've seen him in was Black Panther, but
and this is the other thing, getting to the Hispanic thing to answer the last part of the question, because it's a good one. Hispanic is not a race.
Yeah.
It's a linguistic subgroup that is meaningful, but with Hispanic, Miles Morales is Black Hispanic, right? And that doesn't mean that, like, because there's Black Hispanic and then there's Hispanic, which is still considered non-Caucasian, but then you start getting into, Arabic people and South Asian people and East Indian people and, Southeast Asia and all that stuff. And it's really very difficult unless you've got a cast of unless you're the Eternals. It's really hard to get everybody in. But yeah, Hispanics kind of get lost in that. I mean, they're doing it within the Heights, right? And then they got nailed for not having Black Hispanic people in major roles. And the trouble with Hispanic is you're lumping a bunch of people together who don't actually have common culture. It's a common language, but like if you go to Mexico, a lot of people there prefer to be called Chicano. Even in like the Southwest US, they prefer to be called Chicano. They're like, I'm not from Latin America. I'm Chicano, because there's a lot of backgrounds that are like Arabic and stuff. Like I have a friend, she lives in Mexico. Her background's Lebanese. They're kind of a melting pot there. And then, I mean, Peruvian culture is not the same as Brazilian culture, is, not the same as Cuba or anything like that. So it's like, who do you pick? No matter who you pick, you kind of tick off someone. And I mean, then there have been people like, Salma Hayek, who snuck into roles on her own. That doesn't mean the representation isn't there. We shouldn't carve out a space for representation. And I do see more Hispanic representation popping up more on television than in movies.
I've definitely noticed that.
But keep in mind, again, there are some cities, major cities in the US, Chicago, Atlanta, New York, parts of LA, you will get a bump if you have a prominent Black character in it. They do not have the same awareness, and it's partially based on stereotypes of Hispanic populations. in part because I think there's too many divisions. Up here in Canada, we tend to call people from where they're from, right? So somebody's Argentinian Canadian or Brazilian Canadian or Ecuadorian Canadian. We don't use Hispanic the same way.
Right. I understand.
And it's just different, right? But it's also, I mean, we know the difference between the islands up here as well. And there's a big difference between somebody who came into Canada with the black American experience and then the islands.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing about black people in America as well is because of slavery, rip the Band-Aid off, and because it was forced migration, it's not an immigrant experience the way it was with Asian Americans, right? It was forced migration, and so America is the only culture that Black Americans have ever known. That is their home. They don't come from anywhere else, and that's what I thought was cool about Black Panther is, you know, they included that with Killmonger and how he kind of felt lost. And Killmonger was never really a bad guy. He was just angry.
He was just angry.
Right?
And he basically had this notion, and what he was doing was following what his father was wanting to do, not what, you know, like, well, so he was just continuing the tradition. Yeah.
I like the juxtaposition between him and T'Challa and showing that T'Challa is actually quite a privileged character.
Yeah. Oh, people forget about that when you really think about it, is that T'Challa, he wanted to keep the borders closed. Now, because that was tradition, and please be fair, within fair reason when you take into account the technology they have. Although it's easy to look at it also as you're doing it because, we don't want to share the technology because we're stuck up to a degree, but not all. That's why at the end, he found a middle ground.
Yeah.
Starting to do some embassies, but not full on, you know, say, open borders, take all our technology. No.
Come ride a battle rhino. No, they didn't go full tourism yet. No, I Black Panther was a really good movie in a lot of ways that I think got eclipsed by, hey, first Black superhero, right? But I hope that answered the question. It was,
I think it did.
It was a compound question, but I love it when people ask about this stuff because there actually are answers, and they're cynical. They're cynical, but what it comes down to is there is a big, you know, 900-pound gorilla in the room, 90-pound elephant in the room, whatever metaphor some people get you in trouble for, regarding Black and white history in America. It is unique. It is a unique wound. Black people are really underrepresented in a lot of critical sectors in a way that there's no excuse for. And I think they're kind of trying to paper over that with media. That being said, media has allowed Black wealth to grow, and they fund businesses, like they do the grants, you know, and, you know, the Tupac Shakur Foundation, Magic Johnson's Foundation, Will.i.am, Wyclef Jean, they all do a bunch of stuff for communities. And so that's funneling back down. And I mean, Tyler Perry showed you can make money in movies off of primarily Black audiences, and Hollywood just wanted a piece of that, right?
You definitely can do that, yeah. So, oh boy, I'm trying to get back onto a different, you know, back on track. Well, actually, I would say this. It's funny when we talk about Black Panther, what if? What did you think about the second What If episode?
Oh, I was so validated. So validated on so many levels. I took so much shit when Guardians of the Galaxy first came out on 2 points. But one was, fuck Star-Lord, man. He's the worst part of the movie.
That's your opinion.
Well, exactly. I admit I have a burning dislike of Chris Pratt.
Okay.
That is right. Chris Pine is Captain Kirk. Chris Evans is Captain America. Chris Hemsworth is Thor. Chris Pratt. See, I have to do a process of elimination.
You mentioned that Chris Hemsworth was Chris Pine's dad in Star Trek.
Holy shit, he was.
Yeah.
See, I thought What If?
You look at him though. He doesn't look anything like he does since Thor.
The streak is going to break this week because I thought the what if cartoons were all what Chris do we pull from the Marvel universe this week?
Not this time,
right? Not this time.
The fact is that you have people geez. Before we go further, I want to say, did you hear that there was that rumor going on saying, "Oh, are they stealthily replacing Benedict Cumberbatch because he's not voicing in What If?" And now we know, not everyone's voicing their character in What If. Like RDJ is not Tony. Chris Evans was not Steve in the first episode.
I think that is a collection. Which actors would take scale, right? Which actors would get paid voice actor scale to do that?
Exactly.
Some of them did.
Benedict eventually agreed to it, but that was right at the 11th hour.
Yeah, I mean, he's a real it boy, so he's very busy, so getting him for something like that would be difficult as well.
In his case was a scratch voice until they got him in because they had to get started on production.
If I were him, I'd struggle with the voice in a voice session too. When you got the costume on and everything like that, it's sort of easier to get into character with an accent.
True.
So I don't know if that had something to do with it. But getting back to your original question, the whole Star-Lord is a nincompoop thing. I like the way they handled it because they really played it for laughs that, what if Star-Lord was competent? And then at the end, they're basically like, yeah, but if this happened, the universe would end.
Because you need it that plays only off of the second movie, of course, because once you know, oh crap, ego can get to him now. He's in a miserable place.
Right. And we are talking about the time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe where apparently free will didn't exist and there was only one version of events that could possibly happen.
Right.
I will check myself on that one.
And I would say this with T'Challa, it also tells you he's perfect at anything he does, regardless of what role he's in. And I mean that complimentary. I am not saying that as an insult. I'm
a little ambivalent on that because I don't think that Black and brown characters should have to be perfect to be represented.
Oh, no.
T'Challa just is, right?
I'm not even saying it because he's black. I'm just saying because the character's been established. Thank you, Christopher Priest, for doing it.
Yeah.
Because he's the one who did that first. Then you had the guy who took over afterwards. I forget his name, but the guy who paired T'Challa up with Storm.
Yeah.
Reginald Hudlin, who took it to the nth degree and made it ridiculous.
Yeah.
Priest kept it reasonable.
Yeah. But I did love the clowning on Thanos. I loved it because I was never big on Thanos. So many people gave me shit for going.
I'm not going to give you shit because I understand that. But Thanos, I loved him before he got huge. Before he appeared in Avengers.
I could suspend disbelief when Thanos did what he did because he was in love with death.
Yes.
That made sense to me.
Now I get why they didn't go that route because that would have then.
I don't. Imagine if there's like a sexy female personification of death that Thanos is doing all this stuff for.
Well, they hinted at it at the end of Avengers. They hinted at it by saying to do so would court death.
Yeah, I think that was a throwaway line. They made him a Malthusian, and there were wars in. A big problem with Infinity War is Joss Whedon screwed up introducing the Infinity Stones in Avengers.
Yeah,
that was one of his big hissy fits. And so they didn't establish how they worked. Die-hard MCU fans tell me that for some reason Thanos couldn't just produce more resources. So they tell me I don't buy it.
Either. I don't buy that either because
I don't buy it.
Because the gauntlet, you're supposed to just boom. Like he was able to make everything. He was able to make a female version of himself.
Right.
What was like Texera.
Yeah, and so the fact that he's like, why not just make more food? And it's not. That sounds like genocide. It's not genocide because it's random. I'm dying.
I will say this. I could see when you want to keep the snap, you have to keep the snap. If you're gonna do Thanos, you need. So when you think about. You got it. That limits why would he snap out half the life in the universe. If you don't go with death, the only other option is that, in my opinion. It's like if you want.
I want to go with death. I do not.
I wanted death. So wanted death. When I first heard that's what they were doing, and I agree. I am still ticked off they didn't go with death. I am happy with what we got, but I want death.
Yeah, there were huge parts of Infinity War that made me so angry, including the fact that an entire third of Endgame was in slow motion. I
Mm-hmm.
don't go to those movies to see characters be miserable. I still get like really upset, and this is to Tom Holland's credit, when Spider-Man's getting blipped, and this was a good
Oh,
job because it made you feel it. But it's like, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good, and then he disappears. I'm like, oh god, that feels. But it was
yeah.
just so much death, and it really,
Mm-hmm.
between that and doing what the shit's his name, the guy Oscar Isaac played in Apocalypse,
Oh, oh yeah,
in
yeah. Apocalypse.
X-Men
That was
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse. That was yeah,
Yeah,
Apocalypse.
the threats are so big. I want Doctor Doom. I want somebody who just
Yeah,
wants to take over a place
Kang. Kang the
instead of.
Conqueror.
I'm so stoked for Kang. So
Yeah, and
stoked for Kang.
especially I want Kang War.
Okay.
I want the Kang War where he takes over just through sheer strategic power,
The
not through goodies.
okay.
Not through,
How
yeah.
much of Kang? I'm not meaning to derail from the Thanos thing or your original
Oh no,
question.
no,
Should
no,
we
no, no.
should we wrap up? Should we wrap up the thing about the what if episode and then move on?
We could do. We could get. Let's finish
Okay.
with Kang. Let's continue with Kang.
I liked just to wrap up the what if, I just liked the clowning. I thought it was well done. It I feel like my intelligence, what ifs are not supposed to be taken seriously.
Why people are
Exactly.
taking him seriously, I
Yeah.
don't get it.
I enjoyed it. I felt like at least they were self-aware about the inherent silliness of Infinity War
Mm-hmm.
that I thought people took way too seriously.
Yeah.
And like one of the things that made me angry about Infinity War is too many female characters got too many super shit deaths, right? Like,
Yeah,
okay, Gamora came back, but that was a shit death, and she didn't come out of the Yellow Stone the way she like. I was waiting for that. She didn't come out of the Soul Stone. I'm like,
no. Yeah.
you had one job,
Well, I blame that because Adam Warlock doesn't exist, and he's the one who would do that.
They were also just
that pissed me off as well. The fact that now that's one thing I will blame James Gunn on. He had control over the cosmics. He didn't want to introduce Adam yet, and we're probably going to give him the third one because of that. No Adam Warlock, that shafted Infinity War and Endgame.
They still could have had Gamora coming out of the Soul Stone. Like when that happened, I'm like, all right, we're gonna get this thing, and then we friggin' didn't. And this is what I like about the What If series. First of all, I utterly adore Jeffrey Wright's voice. So him as the Watcher, I freaking love the Watcher.
It fits.
Oh, it's so good.
Now, there has been things he said before in regards to Captain Gordon, Jim Gordon, that I might feel uneasy. But as Watu, perfect.
Yeah. I just perfect casting there.
The only other person I could think of would have been Tony Todd, who could do it. I think.
It gives those of us that don't want these things to be taken so fucking seriously all the time a little bit of a breath, right?
Oh, we're gonna get Marvel Zombies soon. I can't wait for that.
We got Cosmo again, and I was like shot calling that episode. Like it was like, okay, where's Cosmo? And there's Cosmo, and now all we need is Howard the Duck.
Well, we knew that was coming. We knew that was coming.
And then that line of "you're crazy," and I'm like, he's not crazy, he's mad, and he does the turn, and like we get a cool Thanos moment. It's like, yeah, that's what we didn't have with Thanos in the Infinity War. He wasn't the mad god.
No,
he was the sociopathic lack of empathy god. Like he wasn't the mad god. And this is when it's like, stuff like that is why I've actually stopped refreshing my memory on these storylines before I watch this stuff. Sometimes you can't help it.
I used to do that too. I used to do that too, but then I gave up partway through because it's just like after Age of Ultron. Once Age of Ultron, I'm like, you knew that was going to be an in name only. They were not going to adapt that story.
Well, they didn't adapt Civil War. I mean, it's always just in name only. Which
now I think they improved on Civil War in many ways. Not always.
Agreed. 100% agree with you. And it's the only reason I will see Love and Thunder because I didn't like the comic book story.
I hope to God they do not do any of Jason Aaron's Avengers run. They better not, because that's been pissing me off.
Well, they're just going to have to do it differently simply because Natalie Portman's just tiny.
Oh, there's that. Well, I'm talking about in general, like with the Phoenix stuff he did, or once they do She-Hulk, if they bring her to movies and they go with Jason Aaron She-Hulk, you know people are going to be pissed off.
Who you're going to get to act that? Is it going to be a CGI She-Hulk? I don't think so.
The actors are getting the actress from Orphan Black.
Oh, Tatiana Maslany?
Yeah, that's her. She's Jen. She's Jen. I'm like, oh yeah, I saw Orphan Black. She's phenomenal.
Yeah, Tatiana Maslany is excellent, but that suggests they're going more with classic She-Hulk of an intellect there, right?
And I hope so. I hope so, because that's one thing about Aaron stuff that has pissed me off no end.
Well, the thing that made it so funny, because everybody blames feminism for this stuff, but one of the complaints of the kind of stuff I don't follow is the whole Miss Male character thing, right? And She-Hulk wasn't. Blanking on her name, I want to call her Jessica Drew, but that's
Jen Walters.
Yeah, that's Spider-Woman.
Oh no, that's Jessica Drew. It's Spider-Woman.
Spider-Woman is Jessica Drew. Yeah, I'm blanking on.
Jen Walters. That's
Jen Walters. She-Hulk.
Yeah, that is She-Hulk. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's not Girl Banner.
No,
she's a lawyer, and it's different.
Dan Slott got her right in his series of her. He got her so right because he's the first person to make Jen, the woman herself, a character. No one else did. There's a reason why John Byrne made her stuck as She-Hulk, and she remained stuck until Jeff Johns snapped her out of it because no one wanted to do Jen. And so Dan Slott's like, well, what if Jen didn't want to be Jen?
Well, I don't know. I like the fact that she was a lawyer and it was different connection to anger, right? Definitely. You see all this sort of injustice going on and having to hold your shit together in court. That's difficult when you're going to Hulk out. But she is a very different
Hulk, the She-Hulk. She loved it. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Ben and Banner hated it. Jen loved it.
Yeah, it wasn't just, it's the Hulk only female. It's the same mistake they did when they adapted Batwoman to that god-awful CW series.
Oh, yeah, instead of being a superhero that's gay, let's make her a gay superhero.
Well, let's make her Bruce Wayne, right? Instead of being Kay Kane, they took anything that made her unique in the comics and just, oh no, we're going to slick back her hair and put her in suits, and oh no, it's just Batman with girls.
Yeah. And again, but then they turned up the putting emphasis on her being gay as opposed to in the comics. Because I still remember she was introduced in 52. They announced these plans for her, but when the media started treating her like, oh, she's going to be a superhero for gay people, they put it on hold because they're like, we don't want to go in that misconception.
Well, and it was silly because she's not just gay. She's Jewish and an army veteran too, right?
Exactly, but that's why they chose to wait. They chose to wait until 52 was done, and then they decided, okay, let's give her, because they were going to do that Detective Comics stuff much sooner. That's why it feels a little off.
I think I said last time, or I might have said it on Tristan's show, that part of the thing about adapting Kirby is that his art is what carried his stories, right? I mean, J.H. Williams 3 was the same way, right? Adapting Batwoman is really tough because getting that visual style would be extremely expensive.
The paleness alone, I mean, that's unique to her.
That was the first new idea. To me, seeing J.H. Williams 3 for the first time was like seeing Steve Ditko's work for the first time. It's like, what is this?
Oh, yeah.
And this is totally different.
I mean, he's just one of those artists that makes it like a painting, and yet you still feel like it's a comic. It's
but unlike Alex Ross, who only does covers, J.H. Williams did the whole book, right? He has to
without being slow. I mean, the one I would say is my favorite Alex Ross book. It's Kingdom Come related, but it's not Kingdom Come. It was the Kingdom Come special Superman that he did during Jeff Johns' JSA one, the one that he actually wrote and drew, and he actually used pencils. Someone else did the inking or whatever, the coloring. It went straight from his pencils. But that was the first time he ever did straight from pencils, not just, I'm going to light it. No. And I'm like, that is my favorite. And also it explained how did Lois die. You thought she died from the gas? No, she actually survived, but then got hit in the head shattering her skull so badly that Superman couldn't move her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like any story where Lois dies, but
me neither. But
I mean, you can tell I'm partial to Alex Ross. It feels like I should just call it out in the background.
Yeah, I'm just saying that But that's better than her dying from the Joker gas, is what I'm saying. Where she just
well, sure, right. Why is Lois Lane dying from a Batman villain?
exactly.
They
So at least,
do it a lot.
I mean, she still died at his hands, but it was not from the gas. It was
Right.
being hit in the head by
Yeah.
the trophy.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing you have to sort of accept, and this is why I think it's funny that things. I've been reading comics for a really long time,
Mm-hmm.
and I dip in, I dip out, I move around books. I started off as a Marvel girl, which shocks everybody because I'm like so DC. Oh God. Okay, I'm gonna pause my thought and answer Spidey Leo Slayer's question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like how Injustice starts. I think that the
Careful,
writing.
Tristan's a big fan. I should point out. I don't know
Okay,
if she told you
but
that.
I'm getting there. I think
I'm messing.
what Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray did with the story was
Wait, they did the story?
really, I think it was them. Yeah.
No, Tom Taylor did the comic anyway.
No, but the game itself and the way they explained how Aquaman could fight Aquaman and stuff like that. I know they did DC versus MK.
Yeah, I'll look up who wrote the game. Sorry, hold on.
Whoever did the story, they did a really, really good job from that jumping off point that I wasn't crazy about. And I thought that they had really great moments in it.
Actually, the writers were involved with the games. They were Brian Char, Dominic something. Basically, people from
NetherRealms. Okay, so I'm confusing it with DC versus Mortal Kombat. But anyway, the people who wrote that game.
Oh yeah, they really got it. Yeah.
They made sense. Why is new Aquaman fighting old Aquaman? Right?
Oh yeah. Because one's a coward.
They're bringing them all back from the past, right? And then the toughest one for me was how are you going to have Harley Quinn fight the Joker? And they actually explained it, right? And they did a really good job with it.
It's the usual. She falls for him, and then she realized, oh right, you're crazy.
Well, in one of the games, it's like he's dead. So why is he back? You're not the Joker, and she freaks out and attacks him.
But then she fell for him again, and then she realized, oh right. But then 2, I cannot stand how they handled Superman in 2, where they went from him being conflicted to him being like he just wanted an excuse to turn bad. That's what 2 felt like. 2 felt like he was never good. He faked it. He just wanted an excuse to be bad.
Superman is really hard to put in a fighting game. Because he's Superman.
Yeah. But you get what I mean from the story. I mean, you played the second game, right?
Oh yeah, from a story point of view, I mean, I just like that, characters like Gorilla Grodd were in the second game. But
but from a story perspective, Superman was butchered in 2. 1, it worked. 2, no.
Yeah, that's a structural thing that I also think that maybe.
Oh, did you hear that they're skipping 3 and going right to Mortal Kombat 12?
What?
There's a rumor. They're skipping Injustice 3 and they're going right to Mortal Kombat 12 next.
Well, that makes sense because why make 2 games? Why not just port those characters into DLC?
True, but I'm just saying, that the fact that normally they went back and forth. Now they're doing 2 Mortal Kombats in a row.
Let's face it, Mortal Kombat has gone straight up games as service. Mortal Kombat isn't what Mortal Kombat used to be. It's all
now
about
that they're starting over from scratch entirely.
Yeah, but are they going to have the old costumes back as long as it's...
I just want to know what the story's going to do because they've done such good... That's why
as long as it's lingerie boning on the costumes and kitten heels, I will not play another Mortal Kombat game. It just insults my intelligence too much.
At least they got a bit better after the initial release when they did the DLCs.
But that's making me pay for the things that they should have given me in the first place. Don't
get me started on Sindel. She looked hot as hell. But I hate how they butchered her.
I don't like what they did with her character. Yeah. The thing with Mortal Kombat is don't tell me a costume's more respectful when it's actually harder to fight in.
Exactly.
Like you can put a flesh panel in those crisscrossy things and stay in it. It's a ladies wrestling costume, but wearing like teeny tiny little heels and having like a lingerie bodice with a peplum and all that and sticky outy bits everywhere, like. That's just insulting my intelligence. That's not more respectful. It's just more covered up, right?
I mean, I get it. That you don't like, for example, Sonya. Give me at least Mortal Kombat 10. You might not have to do 9 because
9 was too far. I'll give people
9 was just like, about ready to spill right.
One
good tug and
I'm all for the MILF thing, but no.
But
Mortal
yeah,
Kombat 9 went too far with her.
Well,
yeah.
9, she wasn't a MILF yet. That was 10 when she
Yes.
was the MILF.
Yeah, but I did like her costume better in 10. Because I mean her first costume in the original Mortal Kombat wasn't terribly sexy. It was just workout clothes.
Yep. And then
right?
3, same with 3. 3 was the same way.
Yeah. I mean, there was nothing all that crazy about Kitana and Melina's original outfits. They were just bodysuits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why not just do that with like some cool detailing? Like, why do you have to go all crazy and put them in like weird crop vests and peplums? The peplum on Kitana. Do you notice I keep going back to the peplum on Kitana? Because the minute I saw that she was wearing a peplum, I'm just like, oh my god, I'm off this train.
Now, what about with Melina? The fact that people now, do you think it's fair that people associate her with being so sexy? Like, again, the outfits in the first one. I mean, do you think they were fair compared to Sonya? Or would you prefer 10 again? Was them?
It's tough. I thought Melina's story in 10 was interesting. I wasn't super crazy about
how long we had her for?
Well, yeah. I mean, she's one of those ones that for some odd reason, she's a huge fan favorite and they keep holding her back. I think it might be a game balance thing.
True, but there more people are more in it for her because of the sex appeal, I think.
But okay, I have no problem with people. I mean, she's somebody who will literally eat you.
Yep.
So find her hot at your own peril, right?
It's the siren thing where she, has the mask up. You think, ooh, gets in close.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I'm good with Melina. I was a Melina fan back in the day. No problem.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna talk for a bit. I guess more about Mortal Kombat. He didn't ask me about Scarlet. That would have been a very different one. Or Jade. Or Tanya. I'm just gonna name off the female palette swap characters with Mortal Kombat. Because reasons, and I'm stalling. Hi everybody. Hi. I can't see your questions unless he puts them up. So look, there's a doggy. There's a dog bum. Here he goes. This break is brought to you by President's Choice Organics Tea. Yes, this is me stalling. Can you tell I work in radio? And he's back. All right.
Yep, I'm back.
I just did a hilariously awkward stall.
Speaking of which, I gotta say, we brought it up earlier, he's a little upset. His iPad's not charging. I'm trying to help him out with that. But yeah, I was gonna say was with Boss Fight, because I just binge watched all of your episodes today.
Oh, great! So you're just in time for the finale, hopefully dropping on Monday.
I cannot wait for that but yeah, I mean, the fact you debunk so many arguments, and yet you do it like each of your characters. Like, I finally see what you're talking about with SJW, Social Justice Warrior.
He might be my favorite.
And the way there are so many times where you pull up a very convincing guy voice, doing that, where it's just like,
what's funny about the character? I thought I was going to take so much shit for that character. Because he first appears in Lady Bits, and he's misgendered in Lady Bits, and I'm going to address that in the next episode. But it was because after Lady Bits, I realized when I was like preparing for Boss Fight, I'm writing this character as a guy, because he refers to women in his appearance in Lady Bits as like, I'm here to save the world and all the women in it. Women wouldn't necessarily refer to themselves in the third person that way, and then say, after checking my privilege, right, he's accepting himself. And so I'm like, okay, I accidentally created a transgender character. Let's go with it. I mean, obviously, based on my interests, I am not gender conforming. And like back in my old theater days, you actually do movement training with men and women, and it's pretty cool how just with the right things and like sort of slouching a bit, you can look, it's gender performance in action, right? It's not drag, it's not a
no
it's not a hyped up, it's not a to a ridiculous extreme thing, although drag king shows are very different than drag queen shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just so like, he is that guy who just wants the right answer so people aren't mean to him. And
I'll be honest, I was a bit. I mean, I'm not surprised, but I was a little disappointed the poll vote decided to have it be he doesn't change. It's like
I actually didn't originally write the outcome that people voted for because I was sure nothing. The one option that was not possible was the status quo would be
yeah, because
maintained.
and the other two you can understand keeping the status quo, like you hating the Sims.
Well,
you knew everyone was going to keep that.
I originally had henchmen who ended up being local henchmen. I ended up that character being another guy, and him and SJW were going to go off together at the end of one after SJW goes F social justice, right? But yeah, having him stay social justicey, I'm like, didn't see that coming. Yeah. I mean, if Princess Sparkle if Princess Sparkle Muffin had turned bad, she was going to be final boss.
I expected that. I kind of had that feeling, although I think I have a good idea because I'll be honest, I didn't finish the second to last episode. So did you review final bosses yet, or
I have?
Okay,
I won't spoil it.
Okay, I do want to watch it, but
yeah, but
I do have a good idea, but you could be sending me on a red herring for all.
Well, that was an interesting. It's given away in another episode. I'm surprised nobody actually said it.
If that's the case, I know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's so.
Yeah, don't spoil it for people because people can binge watch it once it's out. But I mean, with COVID, this has been an odyssey. But
I bet.
I mean, the challenge of that show is that the myths are actually so easy to debunk with one sentence. There's no evidence of this.
Exactly. I mean, especially with it's that you're sexist, or it's a male power fantasy, or it's violent, but especially the male power fantasy because, like you said in that, there's gender identity and norms and gender. Well, there's gender norms and gender
performance and gender identity, and they're not the same thing.
Exactly.
And people using them interchangeably really, really drives me nuts because
I bet.
You know, look at with Elliot Page, he's still got the gig on what is it, Umbrella Academy?
Yep, Umbrella Academy still got it, but are they going to change the character or not?
I don't know. Apparently, he's still going to perform as female for that character. If he can do that and not go full on dysmorphic, he's quite an actor because I'm not sure in his shoes I could do that. Like that's like going back a lot. But we'll see. Maybe they will change the character. Maybe they'll. But
which if they do, it's understandable. But at the same time, I mean, technically the character is still continuing on beyond what she was in the show. I mean, the comics.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe they'll address that somehow. But I
do like Umbrella Academy because it's both following the show but not following the show. It's kind of like with Walking Dead. That's God bless Robert Kirkman. He set that standard of you can't follow it because if you do, people are just going to crack open the book and be like, "That's what's going to happen."
Yeah, Walking Dead, I don't think anybody expected it to go as long as it did.
Oh, yeah. I don't think even he did. I think he expected to be like a season or two.
Yeah, and then, I mean, Rick leaving just kind of changed the whole show. I mean, I'm a big Doom Patrol nut. That's my jam. I love that show.
And I love it's kind of, like people keep saying it's Grant Morrison. I think it's more Keith Giffen who took the best of everything. I did not like his Master of the Universe, but I love his Doom Patrol.
It is definitely Morrison's run. On it, but
same with Keith Giffen's run. It was very Morrison-y, but it was through a more traditional.
They've adapted it very, very well. I mean, they've kept. There's an example of they've kept the characters essentially the same. But they were smart about the problems they ran into, right? Like if Larry Traynor was a modern day guy in the military, him being gay would be no big deal, right? And so they're taking characters that created like in the Silver Age, kind of, basing it on a run that was in like Morrison's run was in the 90s,
80s
right?
and 90s.
80s and 90s, yeah. And
it was before it became the Vertigo line.
Right.
And
Right,
it
right,
became
right.
Vertigo right after he ended when Rachel Pollack took over.
Right. And so they were like, okay, well, we're just going to make these people very, very old. And so, yes, back
Which is
then.
fine for Robot Man. For Robot Man, that's fine because brain in a robot body.
Well, and I mean the negative spirit and like all of the Rita's sort of like
now that I think they're taking more elements
huge liberties.
They're taking liberties.
Yeah.
But to be fair, you do know how Keith Giffen explained how she was back from the dead, right? She's basically in this protoplasmic morphing.
Yeah, that did come from the Giffen run. Yeah.
Because, well, of course, how was you going to explain it? Because technically, originally, you had to be John Byrne just changed everything. Then Jeff John said, "Oh, it's all back," but then you're like, "But everyone else would explain back, but Rita." So he had to come up with it, and he did it very Morrison-y, but more Animal Man Morrison-y.
Yes, yeah, and I mean they do great little one-offs, but I really hand it to that show that they managed to make the villains friggin' terrifying, even though the whole show is weird.
Mr. Nobody, so
yeah, and then they couldn't get him back because he's doing Resident Alien, which is a great show, but they must have had to pivot very, very quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, the way they used Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man was just
just that name alone. Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man. Sometimes I'm always surprised they never go on to the Modern Major General type of a joke because they do it. It's almost people made that joke connection.
What's the name? I forget his name. The beard guy. Like that's the most disgusting thing I've seen on television ever.
Wait, the beard guy. You mean the chief?
No. The guy who eats drain scum.
Oh, it's been. I actually am a bit behind. I have to catch up.
That's another character that was a total reimagining.
Right.
So they sort of James Gunned that. Every so often I slip and say James Gum. It's like that's a totally different thing. But yeah, I mean that show. I love that show, and I keep waiting.
And I'm glad it's still going. I'm glad it's still going.
I keep waiting for it to shit the bed, and it doesn't. And
again, Jeff Johns is involved with that, and I think he was maybe not so great for movies, but great for TV, I think.
TV is clearly his medium. You're right. Yeah, his movies don't...
And Titans, I think once he started focusing on other TV stuff, it's so clear Kiva Goldsmith and Greg Berlanti took over for season 3 because it feels like Discovery was season 3. I am not a fan of season 3.
I was going to say, do you like Discovery?
No, I don't.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you like Discovery?
Do you want a list? We could be.
Because this is one of those shows that I'm torn on. Right?
I can accept Enterprise to an extent.
Whoa, you're more forgiving than I am. Okay.
Well, no. I only accept it when I look at season. Because I watched season 4 was the first time I watched Enterprise.
Okay.
Right, so when it got good.
Yeah.
Okay. But I did not see. I have yet to see the first 3 seasons. I've only seen the 4th season.
It's like Voyager. It needed a few seasons. Yeah.
Well, I watched Voyager from beginning to end, but except for a few episodes, if I go back, I started Scorpion.
Okay.
When 7 and 9 came up, when they were stuck in the Delta Quadrant, because the Borg space, that's when it got good for me. As far as
because that's when it became a true Star Trek formula of it being a team.
Exactly. I mean, it was good. Unfortunately, because of how the writers work there, I mean, good God, Kate Mulgrew, basically, she openly admits she never understood who Janeway was because they kept changing her so much.
Yeah. They wanted to do a female captain and then had no idea.
And one of the writers perfectly writes her as a Mary Sue. She was one of the original writers of Star Trek. She's the one who wrote the books prequels for Janeway.
Now we're getting into the Mary Sue thing. You're pushing all the buttons. I'm just saying,
the writer wrote her as so perfect and everything. And then other writers said, let's take her down a peg. It just felt like this little multiple writers doing their own thing was in the one show. And you're like, can we have a set continuity here, people?
Yeah.
And don't get me started on Ensign Kim. Oh, sorry. They copy Ensign Kim, who's been followed. We never talk about again.
Yeah. See,
it's funny how people keep bringing that up. It's like the fans.
Okay. I'll tell you my issue with Discovery, and I hate
Okay,
to
then I'll
admit it.
say mine. Then I'll say
It
mine.
makes me really sad. For me, Star Trek is a team effort,
Yep.
right? You have to have at least 3 characters working together
You need the
who
Kirk, the Spock, McCoy
at least
archetypes at
at
least.
least. I mean, TNG, it's like everybody, right? But they
Exactly.
work
Even
together.
DS9 after the beard was grown. After
After the beard was
well,
grown.
hey, with Cisco, once he got the beard,
Fair. I
that's
was a
whenever you see the memes, it's always post beard.
I was a Babylon 5 fan, so I
Oh,
still have a
you had to pick
grudge.
one or the other. You had
Yeah,
to pick.
well, I just have a grudge on Deep Space Nine. But you have that team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Michael is a team breaker on
Mm-hmm.
Discovery. There's a really interesting show in that show that isn't allowed to exist because Michael gets a new superpower every half season.
Don't get me started on
And
that.
that isn't Trek.
And it's funny when you have someone like I'm bringing up another YouTuber, Linkara, notorious, like big Star Trek fan, but also notorious for being a feminist. But even he has issues with Discovery.
Okay,
What
that
does
makes
that?
that makes me feel. I don't have issues with Discovery. I have issues with Michael,
Oh, I
and
know,
I
but
like the
I'm saying, but
actress.
it's because of if Michael is one of the factors he has with it, and
Yeah.
yet, and it's also just the fact that it doesn't fit. You cannot make
Well,
this fit at all.
well, Michael was a delivery mechanism for Giorgio, who was
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I mean, like that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. There's a lot of really good elements of
Oh yeah.
Discovery. I like Saru, the engineer
Oh,
guy.
yeah, it's Doug Jones. What do you expect?
Yeah, but like there's a lot of good stuff in Discovery. Tilly's adorable. I needed a
Mm-hmm.
bit of time with Tilly,
Yep.
but you know, there are good things about that show and it just all
Well, I will say
gets.
this: give me Discovery over Picard.
Oh, really?
I did not like Picard because of all the changes. Like, oh, let's totally redo Starfleet entirely just so we can make a Brexit parallel or a Trump parallel. And it's like, I'm just saying this. And Stewart, he wanted an action star show, but it tells you that he was willing to forgo what Roddenberry did with Star Trek just so he can satiate his own ego. Even Shatner has shown he has an ego, but he respected Roddenberry's vision too much to do that.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just too much of a TNG fan, but
Well, it didn't feel like TNG. It felt like
seeing them all back though,
but
like
that's for the fan service from the right. And don't get me started on Ichab getting fully fridged.
I think I got so broken by the movies that they softened me up for Picard. Because
I would agree. First Contact, the only one of the Star Trek movies I liked. Or are you talking about the Calvin timeline?
No, I'm talking about like they all blur together. The one where
Even
Data gets killed. Nemesis. That's right. And then all the stuff, the reimagine, it all just blurs together.
Was good. Beyond was good. That was the third one.
Was that the TNG cast or was
no? I'm talking about the reboot era.
I mentally checked out when Uhura
that's the
Spock.
one. That's the one
like
that was directed by the guy from Fast and the Furious, and they had that horrible first trailer, but a great second trailer.
But that's what I'm saying. Like I was so softened up by the modern films that to me Picard is just art compared to what they did in those movies.
I would think that, but again, much like Discovery, it felt like politics is playing, and then basing off of current politics is dominating too much in it, in my opinion.
I kind of liked the griming up the Federation just because
I get extended to an extent because we know DS9 did it. DS9 certainly grimed it up enough because from the very beginning of DS9, the whole portion of the stuff on Bajor. All this stuff with Bajor and everything was a complete, basically making clear there's a flaw. There is a flaw with the Prime Directive if this happens.
Yeah. Okay. I was in a fan film called Bastards of Kirk, which is all about, the Prime Directive. It's Kirk going back and meeting all the illegitimate children he fathered throughout the galaxy. But yeah, I don't know. I see your issues with it. I've heard other people have the exact same complaints about Picard.
Mm-hmm.
I can just.
And come on, you knew he wasn't going to die at the end. You knew they were going to put him in an android
Well,
body.
yeah, you know my
Now,
feeling about
I would
people
say though,
dying in
the way
shows.
they handled Data, it felt like Harrison Ford as at killing off Han Solo. And Brett Spinner wanted a chance to just take him out for good. No backups, no nothing.
I just think Brent Spiner's in a difficult situation because he is too old
Oh no, and
to
I agree with
play
that.
Data, right?
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. But I
Yeah.
felt like the fact having be that, the upload in the beta never worked. When unfortunately, you have a very good prequel comic to the Star Trek movie that showed that he's the captain of the Enterprise and everything, and it did take.
Yes,
Was so well done.
This is why I purge everything from extended canon stuff. Because
Yeah, but I'm just saying that comic was great because you had this great moment where Spock and Data talk, and it's like you're one of the few people I could actually talk to about reincarnation,
right,
and get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just liked seeing.
I mean, that sounds like something those two would say, doesn't it?
It does. I totally get your complaints about
and I totally get why you like, and I totally get your reasons for liking it. I respect that.
Like once they redid Wrath of Khan, I'm just like,
that unfortunately was you got to partially blame Paramount and the writer strike.
Yeah.
Those are the two big reasons why.
Once they did that, my bar for Star Trek
I still
lowered.
think you should check out Beyond. You should check out Beyond because that actually that was one written by Simon Pegg, co-written by him. You have he was Bloodsport just in
Idris Elba.
Yeah, as the bad guy.
Okay.
They actually tie into Enterprise.
I don't like Chris. Which Chris is that? Pine? I don't like Chris Pine as Kirk. I don't like what's his name is Spock. I don't like them. The only one I enjoy watching is Carl Urban as Bones because he's not trying to be DeForest Kelley.
He's not trying to be, but he perfectly nails it in his own way.
Because he's going for the same route. He's going for the same route motivations of the character. He's not trying to do an impression.
Exactly. Oh, definitely not. But the fact his first line was, "I might throw up on you."
Yeah. But
like, I can see McCoy saying that if he's right after the divorce and everything, you feel like he would say that.
I mean, I really like Carl Urban. Period. I'll watch almost anything he's in. I watched that show Almost Human that he was in. That I was upset didn't get a second season. He's very good. He's very devoted. To his work.
Again, the fact that he was willing to keep the helmet on in Dread the whole time, never take it off.
Which is the right call.
What actor would do that?
Carl Urban.
I know, but I'm saying, what other actor? Almost none. I mean, how many Marvel movies do they just take off their mask?
How many reasons do they have for Spider-Man to take off his mask at completely inappropriate times?
Exactly. Especially like, let's have this spark skip in the face. And somehow it got inside the train for them to grab.
You can't even
it right up. He tossed it off the train. How did someone grab it?
You can't even claim Pedro Pascal did it because that's a body double for most of the Mandalorian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, I get some actors. It's like you wanted me here for, the face for my face, for me, and then
that's the studio too, right?
That too. It is the studio too, but a lot of times it's also the actor's ego. Let's be honest.
Well,
a number of times it is their ego, and they just want to show their face because it's just like, how are people gonna know it's me and not just my voice?
Well, and it's also a lot of the time, then that means the actor's in it very little. It's either a stuntman or CGI, right?
Oh, exactly. I mean, now they keep on claiming that it was Pedro Pascal in a lot of during the first season. I don't buy that. I do not buy it at all.
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter, I guess.
True.
But yeah, it's kind of funny that he became such a big star based on a show where it's not him in this. I mean, it certainly wasn't him in the suit for a lot of season 2 because of scheduling conflicts.
Oh yeah.
I don't know about
the other stuff and all the other stuff going on behind the scenes, if you believe it. Of course, that's if you believe Grace Randolph, who I do not all the time.
I didn't follow a lot of that because I just felt terrible for Gina Carano.
Oh, yep. Oh, I feel so bad. I mean,
I
even
feel
still,
terrible for her.
even still, the position she's in now, because she feels like she has no other option. It's one
Yeah.
of those things where it's kind of like there's rumors going on that Bill Willingham might be going to Comicsgate after how he was treated after them bringing back Fables. I don't blame him if that's
Really?
true. That's the rumor, because apparently when they announced, he's bringing back Fables, you're gonna have Batman versus Bigby. Oh, good God, the Twitter, the Comic Pro Twitter started just being like, oh, how conservative he is and all that stuff. And it's like, he's one of the most reasonable conservatives. One moment I always bring up to prove that he's not what they think he is. He's doing Justice Society of America. He has Obsidian stuck in this egg. And at the very end of the arc, he's free. And then you have a point where Alan Scott's saying, son, hey, Dad, guess what? I'm cured. I'm not gay anymore. And the look on their face is like, and then he's like, just kidding, still gay. You should have seen the look on your face. But he's playing off of what people expected him to do. They were expecting, like, he's going to ungay Obsidian. Like, no, of course not. He respects the character.
I don't understand. It's like, so what? He's a conservative. Did you like Fables?
Exactly. Unfortunately for some of these people, they don't want him back, because for them, that means let's work for they want, how competitive comics have become these days when it becomes
because it's a shrinking pool. Yeah.
It's a shrinking pool, but a guy, Comics by Perch, he also put it another way. It's a club. It's a very exclusive club. That's why they're all upset about the Substack. It's now a new club that you're not going to have editors that you can befriend to get you in.
Wow. See, this stuff bothers me because pendulums always swing, right? Pendulums always swing.
I think the Substack is going to blow up in their face, if you ask me. They're expecting one thing. And it's like anyone going to Comicsgate. They're probably going in being promised, oh, you'll get Cyberfrog money or something. You're not going to get Cyberfrog money. You're going to probably barely make $150K.
But I mean, that's a good payday for
but that's for the campaign. So how much that's going to go to Indiegogo? How many of that's going to go into shipping? How many of that's going to go into printing?
You lose a fair bit, but you're still walking away. I mean, printing's not that much.
True, but especially
if you're doing like hundreds and hundreds of books, printing's not that much. 100K payday for a comic book series, that's pretty good. I'd take that.
Oh,
but I just, to me, it's more pendulum swing. And I remember when it hurt you to be too progressive in media.
Oh, yep. I do recall that.
I remember very clearly being hauled into a program director's office when I was doing radio, and the guy, it was so sleazy, said, now some would tell you to cut out the feminist bullshit. And I wasn't doing anything that out there. I
remember there was that point where feminism was so reviled, but not because of the reasons you would think now, but just because it existed.
This was a while back. So
I recall that. But you don't hear that.
There was a time, I mean, God, I was doing HIV AIDS awareness stuff during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and even before that. Pendulum swing. And when you, because that's not ostracizing Bill Willingham because of something he did. That's ostracizing Bill Willingham.
That's an excuse they make for it.
No, not even. They're ostracizing Bill Willingham for something he is.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Sorry. You're right.
What if he's not anti-gay? If he's like not, women should get back in the kitchen. Like,
no, he's definitely not.
So what? He's a small government conservative,
Exactly. That's what I think he is. He's shown that in some of his work.
Yeah.
In fact, this is the guy who could work with Judd Winnick, and they do that DC Decision book where you had Judd Winnick represent the Democrats, you had Bill Willingham representing the conservatives, but they do it equally.
That was the Hawkman Green Lantern thing, right?
Well, that's been going on for a while, but even during that, where Ollie's the one who starts it by saying, I'm going to support this guy, and then Hawkman's the very next person saying, I'm going to support this guy, and then everyone's starting to do it.
That was so heavy-handed.
True, but I like at the end, we never found out what Superman voted. You never found out.
I did like that
because you do know one. You could not care about anyone else. Hawkman and Green Arrow, you knew where they were going to swing. Other people, even if Lois, you found out she was a liberal, which, given Greg Rucka's writing recently, what happened, man? What happened to Adventure Superman, Lois?
Well,
but anyway,
but
if you
okay,
knew
but
Superman,
maybe Lois isn't, right? Because her father's in the military.
well, yeah, but given also him trying. Oh, by the way, this might set you off. Okay, what do you recall about how Sam Lane raised his daughters? Like sons.
Yes.
But recently, Brian Michael Bendis revealed they have a brother, and Sam Lane raised them. It's like, no, okay. This would happen at the same time when it was revealed that Dick Grayson had a half sister. But that one was done respectfully because she was conceived a little bit before Dick, and before his parents got married. So,
see, how come? Okay, his parents were carnies. That's a little bit easier to explain.
Yeah, well, and the girl they rescued from the guy who killed them later, that mob guy.
But how come Brian Michael Bendis doesn't get, he's doing a Gary Stu. He's just putting a self-insert in that, he gets to be Lois Lane's brother. Like, he doesn't get that criticism. But the minute a woman writes something, or the minute it's a female character, this Mary Sue thing gets thrown in. And I mean, comic book creators do that stuff all the time.
They do it as a shortcut because they don't want to build them up. For some of them, because they don't have the time to do it, because you never know how long you're going to be on a run.
And I also think a lot of the time characters they're Mary Sue, when really what they are is
really skilled, but not that far.
They're just making a female character awesome to make her a better trophy for the male lead. I mean, let's face it, that's kind of what happened with Rey at the end of Star Wars, right?
I am Rey Skywalker.
Well, but also like with the whole redemption of Kylo Ren and the whole thing, it was just that's
that point
all along.
Now, if they went by the Duel of the Fate script, it would have been a lot different.
See, I wrote that in my head, and it was totally different, and so I just checked out. Because what
do you do with where you left? What do you do with what Last Jedi gave you? Where do you go?
No, it was even sooner than that. It was Force Awakens, where my expectations.
I agree. I agree. But I was willing enough to say, I'm going to wait until the next movie, see what they do. Then afterwards, you then say, okay, crap, they have no idea.
See, I was hoping that, because you know how the end of a Sith's training is killing their master. Right, you have to cut off all your connections and then kill your master, right?
Except when Palpatine tweaked it to make sure he was still in control. Obviously, it never got to that point.
Correct. So I was hoping that we would actually find out that, because you only see Han Solo from about here up, right? And you see the lightsaber go off. I was hoping that it would turn out that Han Solo hit the button on the lightsaber, not Kylo Ren. Therefore, Kylo Ren cannot turn to the dark side. And it was Han Solo that ended up saving him. And then, Princess Leia does her bit, and his parents were actually the ones that end up saving him, not Rey. And that just, to me, would have been so much more poignant and so much more of a good send-off for that original cast. And then it would also be Han Solo finally doing something truly noble and selfless on screen.
Yeah, right? But unfortunately, when you have a lot of the people involved wanting to make sure we don't want the old characters, let's just focus on our new characters. And even then, let's just focus on one of the new characters eventually.
One at a time. Yeah,
No, not even that. Let's introduce this great character in Finn, and China's not going to like it. Let's just... Actually, no, even before China, Rian Johnson didn't like him. Remember, he was writing that script before they even finished shooting Force Awakens, so he was already going to make Finn a joke.
Okay, but let's face it, with the prequels, it was the same thing, right? Like the prequels...
the prequels was because no one told George no.
Okay, but apologies to the prequel generation. The prequels were junk. He tried to make episode 2 better than episode 1, and it is by far the worst.
3 is the only one that holds up. 3 is the only one.
I argue that the first one, the what is it, the Phantom Menace? Is that the first one?
Yep.
That is saved by the lightsaber battle with
and
Darth
the pod
Maul,
racing.
Obi-Wan, and the pod racing. Like, there's
Oh,
some good action sequences in that
Those
movie.
are the two good, and to a degree, the space fight to a degree.
Yeah.
If only Anakin wasn't that young,
right?
You know,
yeah.
If he was a little older, it would be more believable. With him that young, it's like he's fumbling around.
Yeah, episode 1 is hands down better than episode 2 in my mind. But let's face it.
I'm saying 3 was the best of them.
3 was all right, but they weren't great, right? They were hardly the original trilogy.
Oh,
and then
not.
Dave Filoni came around and like saved that whole universe with Clone Wars.
Was Clone Wars and then Rebels.
Right. So, it's
good God. Did you see the ending, the final season of Clone Wars?
No, I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm trying to watch them with.
Wait until you get to Ahsoka versus Maul, because the stuff Maul says to Ahsoka, it makes her fight with Anakin and Rebels even more poignant.
I'm trying to get my husband to watch Clone Wars, and he's not really big into Clone Wars. He doesn't like the pacing of it. So it's.
Are you watching in release order or in the chronological order? Because there is a specific chronological order that's all over the place.
Whatever Disney Plus is giving me.
Okay, because I'm just saying there is an actual chronological order that some episodes in season 3 take place in season, around the time of season 1.
That's about where we're at. But yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, The Mandalorian is doing it again, that the movies were not good and now everybody loves The Mandalorian.
Oh yeah,
right?
Because Nostalgia Crazy put it best. It knew what was Star Wars, not what the sequel movies were, which was.
And here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Star Wars was always conceived as serialized storytelling. That's why it starts as episode 4. It was supposed to be that afternoon Saturday matinee popcorn movie you took your kids
to. And even if the first one didn't do so well, George wanted to continue. That's why you had Splinter the Mind's Eye. That was supposed to be a made-for-TV sequel if the first one didn't do well.
But what you're describing now is streaming, right?
Yeah.
Those fun Saturday afternoon popcorn movies you just watch because they're on. So it's possible that Star Wars just fits better in the serialized streaming service where you can tell a story over 6 to 10 episodes.
Yeah. Even if it's once a week, you're still, it's like that matinee feeling.
Yeah.
The matinee where you were going every, what did they used to do? A month or a week or what?
One a month. It usually was one a month. And you went and it was a continuing story. So I mean, maybe it's just a format thing. Maybe it's to Star Wars is just kind of glancing off the big budget movie thing because the requirements, because Star Wars has never had a real international following because it wasn't allowed in the communist world. And that's a big problem with the new stuff, is that the nostalgia just doesn't exist there.
Oh, no, definitely not. I mean, which is funny when you have something like Warcraft existing in some of those other areas, and it's so big there.
But they heavily censored Warcraft in China.
Which is funny because that was where it did the biggest, was in China. That is the funniest thing. And I like the movie. I like that movie.
Yeah. Sorry. I thought you meant the game.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I was talking about the movie. I was talking about the movie.
They had to take out a bunch of stuff to run WoW in China. But again, there was a large player base for WoW in China. So, of course, they went to see the movie. It's the same way, Aquaman is very similar to a pre-existing Asian movie. So Aquaman did like crazy good.
Oh yeah, and Aquaman is one of those good comic movies.
I couldn't stand Amber Heard in that movie, and that was before all this stuff that happened. She was.
Oh really? I did not mind her. I did not hate her, but I did not. I wouldn't say I loved her. I still think. I mean, compared to Nicole Kidman, who was phenomenal in that.
Yes, she was good.
I keep forgetting how freakishly tall Kidman is. I keep forgetting how
she's really tall.
I know, you're like.
Amber Heard was cast just because of look, right?
Oh, and she looked the part.
She looked the part, absolutely. But when
blame Zack Snyder, he's the one who casted her. Anyway.
When it came to the actual performance, especially in that scene where she's finally on the surface and she's supposed
Mhm.
to be doing the what a wonderful, but she just didn't bring it. She was above the
No.
material, and they didn't have a ton of chemistry.
The only time it worked that matched that performance was when she's getting short with Arthur, when she's all like, "Okay, grow up, would you?" But that's because it matched Amber's actual.
I was about to say, when she gets to be herself, yeah, like
which felt believable. And yeah, I would say the action, she could do the action.
All that was CGI.
True.
All that was CGI, and I just didn't. I'm attached to Mara. I actually made a cosplay for Mara that's a bathing suit, so I could go swimming in it.
Nice.
Maybe they were thinking they could fast forward to like the whole Red Lantern Mara thing, and that's why they cast her. But I think she was just.
Oh, she would be great for her. Like, just like, rah, rah.
Yeah.
No talking.
She shits in Aquaman's bed, but I never liked dogs. But
now,
I just.
Do you want her to recast her? Or do you want a new character? Now, since you like Mira, do you think her damaged the character so much, or do you think a recasting to say Emily Clark could save her? Or would you just rather see Dolphin take over?
What I think they should do is have a movie without Mara in it and then recast.
Right.
So it's not a complete replacement.
So bring Dolphin in to fill the role for a while. You know, like you could if Mara's in the script, you introduce Dolphin, put her in there, and then bring Mara in the next movie. I'm not saying
I mean, Aquaman and Mara in the comics have had a very, shall we say, tumultuous relationship.
Well, thank you, New 52, for getting rid of their marriage.
Yeah, but even before that,
before
that, there was some weirdness there. But you know, you could do an Aquaman movie without Mara.
Yes,
you can. People are going
to see. Give them the hook hand.
I actually thought she was better in the extended Snyder cut footage than she was in the Aquaman
with the accent
movie.
And everything.
Yeah, like what happened there?
That could be one. I think because she was focusing on the accent, she had to focus on her performance.
Perhaps, yeah.
And maybe maybe that's the reason why Snyder did it because remember he casted her for that. Because he had this particular vision of Mara and the Atlanteans in mind, which was this weird, accented and all that, of which I don't get it. And to be fair, I also think Snyder, right after Jeff Johns, he understands Wonder Woman to an extent, but you need someone else to translate what he's doing. That's why him producing and Patty Jenkins directing the first movie was a match made in heaven.
Yes.
Because you needed someone with a good idea, and then someone who understood the character and executed it.
And even then, they fought with her. The best scene in the whole movie. They wanted it taken out.
No Man's Land.
Yeah.
Yep, using the shield, and that's what they used in the trailer then, which is so ironic then. It's like they had issues, but what do people remember most from that trailer?
Yeah. Like that was the big iconic scene, right?
And her climbing up and everything.
Right, that was the big iconic scene. Like, come on.
Right. And if there's one thing I cannot stand with the extended Snyder Cut, the overuse of her theme. I think more than any of the movies, they overused it in Justice League.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
I love that music. I love it. But even I have my limits.
There was just so much movie there. Like, so much.
Oh, and I did not like how she killed the guy at, the bomber or whatever. And then everyone's like, it's like, no, that's not Diana. Diana would have stopped him without blowing him up.
See, I kind of don't mind when they have Wonder Woman
It's the celebration of it, though. But it's the celebration of it that I did not like. How everyone
I don't mind. Well, yes, in the comics when she killed somebody, there was no celebration. They were friggin' brutal on her. But that was
out of context. But that was an out of context thing.
I just think it makes her different from Batman and Superman, and that's always been a struggle with the DC Trinity: is how do you make Wonder Woman different?
There's a balance for her, but I say there's a balance. Which is why I do not like it when they have her be she's kill crazy like some.
She shouldn't be. It shouldn't be Amazon's attack. Absolutely not. No. Yeah, it shouldn't be Amazon's attack.
That wasn't her. That was the Amazons.
Yeah, that was the Amazons. But
she herself was like, "You got to stop this." She's not Artemis. She's not Artemis.
But I think Wonder Woman
Artemis is newer than people think.
Yeah.
You know that, right? Keep
Yeah. Yeah.
forgetting. It was issue 100 of the post-crisis. Or
Oh
no,
yeah, I remember when
94,
they
94, yeah.
I remember when they premiered Artemis. I was like, yeah, I like
And then,
Artemis.
and they killed her. Then they brought her
Yeah.
back, and she's
Yeah.
been a staple ever since.
Yeah. But I
Rosario
think
Dawson, best voice for her, if you ask me.
I kind of like that Wonder Woman doesn't kill because it's a choice, as opposed to like Batman because he's crazy and needs limits, or because Superman just because it's all about restraint, right?
That's one thing from Infinite Crisis that pisses me off all the time. Was it took these Thou Shalt Not Kill to the stupid level.
Yeah.
It took it to the now I can understand they're mad at her because of the out of contactness that Maxwell Lord and Brother I put them in. That I understand. But the fact they went as far as, and yes, I can understand why that bit where it looks like she's going to kill Mongol. The original writing really didn't help. Just saying, what did you think I was going to do? That's why they had to add in saying, what did you think I was going to do? I was going to pin him to the floor.
Mhm.
I don't know who, which makes the I don't know who you are anymore much better than just simply, what did you think I was going to do? I don't know who you are anymore.
I just found the whole Superman and Batman turning on Wonder Woman because she killed Max Lord to be so disingenuous. Because
Superman's whole arc in there made little sense. Like,
well,
why aren't you doing enough? Now, Batman had the best line.
But did you guys did those two seriously believe that not a single person died whenever they're like trashing entire buildings?
Yeah, I mean, at least the Hulk has an excuse. You have Banner's constantly doing the calculations in his head to make sure. Now, granted, it took Greg Pak to introduce that.
Yeah, but it's just like, it was so okay. She didn't have another choice. It was a split-second decision she made, and I just
I liked it. I liked the explanation for it.
To me, I found the aftermath of her snapping Max Lord's neck so preachy. Forced and preachy, but
you needed it for Infinite Crisis. You needed it, but then Jeff Johns never got the character. That is one character. He's gotten so many other characters: Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman. The fact that he had Earth 2 Wonder Woman say you could first start by trying to be so perfect. It's like Diana's never tried to be perfect.
No, she is noble. That's not the same as perfect.
Exactly. Now, the only time that Jeff Johns worked was when you had Alan Heinberg actually doing the writing.
Did you see he pulled that same trick in Stargirl with Jade?
Oh,
it's the exact same conceit that Jade tries too hard to be perfect.
But it works there because she's a young girl trying to be like her father. It's not a case of, like, what is Wonder Woman's excuse because she's been on Man's Life? It's not like she just got off the boat.
Yeah.
But one case of, I think someone got it worse than Jeff Johns in that regard. Jodie Picklet, she's a writer. She's a female
I don't
writer.
think I vaguely remember the name.
She took over right after Jeff Johns and Alan Heinberg's run, but before Gail Simone took over. There's a point where she's in the guise of Diana and she's being told, pump the gas, and she's like, pump? It's like,
she's been around. She knows what that means.
Yeah, like she just got, and that's why I say that's one of the worst cases of it. That's worse than Jeff Johns. At least he knows she's been around long enough to know what pumping gas is. She worked at a fast food joint, for God's sake.
Yeah. I mean, but that's, again, the thing about comics. You have to sort of accept that your favorite stories are eventually going to shit the bed for a while.
Oh yeah, again, the fact that we had Amazon's attack with her not long afterwards, it just.
I'm a Plastic Man fan. Okay, I've been disappointed for a really long time because someone at DC loves Elongated Man, and for some odd reason they think you can't have both.
Yeah, even Kyle Baker's one was good for that first 6 arc. They should not have kept him going.
No,
and the fact is, it was meant to be a graphic novel, but it did surprisingly well. So they told him stick around. And then that last arc was so mean-spirited.
Yeah, and that's not Plus, right? Like,
no,
he's
it's not. I didn't mind him getting an adoptive daughter. I didn't mind that. She was funny.
I liked that arc where he found out that he had a kid, and Batman was kind of disappointed that he was an absentee dad because he thought Plastic Man would be the coolest dad because he's funny.
Oh, that was in Justice League, JLA, yeah.
I like that. I
loved it with the White Martians or whatever took over or whatever. It made them think they were in their identities, and he did not want to. He did not want to become E.O. O'Brien again. He's the reason why he saved the day, because it proved there's a reason why Morrison put him and Elongated Man on, because he and probably one of the few things I will give Mark and Frank Miller for in Dark Knight Strikes Again. He could kill everyone. For him, it would be easy.
Yeah,
if he wanted to.
You can pound him into like little tiny particles, and he'll just eventually reform.
Even in Deceased, when he actually got corrupted, he was so dangerous. The moment you thought he killed Zatanna, I was like, shit. Now she survived.
One of my favorite modern Plastic Man moments, though, is when he posed as Big Barda's dress. I mean, I love Big Barda, and I love Plastic Man, and just the comedic, like, she gonna kill him. And he don't care. Like, he's gonna take the beating because he's Plastic Man, but it was like totally worth it. It was just...
You know what that reminds me of? You remember Hitman? The Hitman character.
I'm jumping to the video game. There's
not that. No. The comic one by Garth Ennis.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, I love it how Morrison used him during a JLA, one of their, member recruitment drive. He just comes in, looks at one of them and lowers his shade and saying, I'm good, and he walks off, and I'm like, that's what that reminds me of. It reminds me of moments like that where these people just do these lewd things, but you're like, that's what they would do.
But it's like, okay, you have to sort of go, I had those moments, I remembered them, this storyline is not interesting to me, I'll jump off, I'll come back on. There's really no point in completely freaking out when something doesn't go your way, because read comics long enough, follow something long enough. It will happen, right?
I regret dropping Mariko Tamaki's run. I was on Wonder Woman. I stayed on there long enough, and then after that first issue just killed it for me. I'm like, okay, I put up through G. Willow Wilson's run and everything because it felt like a continuous arc. I'm like, I'm done. But then I heard how good it was, and now I regret it. I'm like, man. Well,
you can go back and read it, right?
Like, I know, but I'm a completionist. Now there's a hole in my collection between G. Will Wilson's run and the post-Death Metal run.
Okay. I mean, you can get those. Oh, you do the floppies.
Yeah, I do floppies.
Okay. There's a place in Toronto called Paradise Comics that has a massive back catalog. They might have it.
All right.
But... Yeah, it's
or it's like She-Hulk, for example. How many things have they done with her before the recent stuff where, like, you got Dan Slott, then you have Peter David take over, and his was very different.
Yeah.
Very underrated, but I could see why so many people dropped it. And then
there was a really long time where I really didn't like Batman because he was too much of an asshole. Like, No Man's Land did super well for them, and so they just kept going grimdark, and it got to the point where... That was after
Denny O'Neil left too, though, remember?
Yeah. It got really, like, this is bad asshole. And so Bat Dickory, I didn't read the book anymore. And then, when the Super Sons came along and my husband said, no, it's more like Earth 2 Batman now. I'm like, okay, I'll give this a try again. And I enjoyed it.
I would say you like Morrison's run as well. He kind of lightened it up a little bit before he then darkened it again. But at first.
I am very hit or miss on Grant Morrison, depending on how many drugs he's doing when he's writing.
Oh, then you might like his Superman and the Authority that he's doing recently. That's his farewell. Yeah, how many times did he said that? I saw Green Lantern with his farewell.
Is he relatively sober?
It's a bit over the top, but you have Natasha Irons.
Okay.
Now, this is an alternate continuity, all right?
Yeah.
All right, but you have Natasha Irons saying ADHD is a superpower sometimes, and that's when she puts on the armor and she deals with literal trolls that are body shaming trolls and literal bots that are quoting bot lines.
See, that kind of stuff, I'm like, I read comics to get away from those realities.
But you get the joke,
but it's funny. Literal
trolls, literal bots. And
yeah. But it's like, yeah, okay. I don't know. If I see it, I'll pick it up. And
I'll say his Green Lantern run, it's trippy, but we get it for Liam Sharp's artwork.
All right. Green Lantern can be trippy, and it works.
Well, there's certain things that Liam Sharp's artwork is so damn good. Get it for the artwork.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's just sort of like, if I'm feeling grumpy about an arc, I don't buy it. I wait until I'm in a better mood. I learned, like, don't force yourself into
Spider-Man. It's like with Dan Slott and Spider-Man. So, oh, good God, that guy went so from frustrating places. The alpha stuff.
See, I skipped all of that.
Yep. Have you read Spencer's run?
No, see, Dan Slott blocked me on Twitter during Gamergate, and so I was just like, nope. not
You'll like.
giving
I
you
think
money.
you like Spencer's run
He,
though.
he ended
Spencer.
up he ended up unblocking me. I have to finish the story. He did end up
Sorry. All right.
unblocking me, but it put a bad taste in my mouth with that. It's like look, you're using a block list, man. I don't
I don't.
support that.
I got blocked by Gail Simone. Met her at a convention. Pointed out she denied using black bots. I just went along with it. I got unblocked. I just got blocked again recently.
Oh, that it started up again, has it?
Yeah, and it's like, whatever. Just...
Yeah, it see this is the stuff that this is why I've stayed arm's length from comics for a while, because there's way too much of a mom and dad are fighting phenomenon still going on.
I will agree with that. Yeah.
It's such a small world that there is no reason for these creators to be scrapping with each other on Twitter. You have each other.
Sorry.
But
go ahead.
They have each other's emails. They are associated with each other. Handle it in private.
Exactly.
Like, really.
That's the problem with social media, and this is an epiphany I had recently. Okay, in the recent Nightwing issue, you made it in Nightwing. It became a bit of a Dick Grayson became a bit of a mouthpiece for Tom Taylor's politics. Like you're like, oh, a hero should not be a billionaire. I just got this money from Alfred. I'm going to put in the donation to help the homeless and to help out with the wages and everything. But it was done in a way that still kind of fit for Dick. You know what I mean?
I can see why that would work.
But I say this. Would have been a problem. Would people have bitched and moaned if they didn't know Tom Taylor's politics from social media? And I think
probably not.
Some might, but most wouldn't. And I also then started to wonder, what if there was social media back when Danny O'Neill was a writer?
Well, yeah, right.
And I started wondering, how many of the classic stories do we have actually have more politics in it than we thought? But we couldn't tell.
X-Men was based on the civil rights movement.
Well, when Claremont came on,
from the beginning. I mean, there are clear.
From what I've heard, when you look at how Magneto was, he was just a stereotypical villain. He was not what you thought of him until Claremont
but
did it.
The backstory. I mean, you got to remember that the early comic book writers, they were all like either Jewish immigrants or children of Jewish immigrants, and that is infused in all that stuff. And so, I mean, there's a difference between your worldview informing your stories, but first and foremost, they are still just good stories. And it eclipsing, like the plot stopping for somebody to go on some politicized speech, right? Show, don't tell. And I think that's the difference.
Definitely. I would definitely think that's the difference. That's why when Stan did it, if he did it, it was so subtle. You really have to know it to get it.
You had to sort of know Stan Lee as well. I mean, he was just such an authentic dude.
Yeah.
That
the soapbox stuff.
Well, he was him, right? It wasn't. He didn't sit there and plan it. Stuff just came to him, and he thought, gee whiz, if I like this, somebody else will like it.
Exactly. And now, of course, you got to give props still to the other writers too, like Kirby and Ditko and all that. Because I know there's so many people.
I mean, Ditko straight up politics with the stuff he did, right? With Mr. A.
Yeah, but I was going to say you also have that rally, that protest, and you have Spidey shaking his fist at it, but then Stan actually wrote it where he was going, you guys.
But
and good God, was Steve pissed at that one.
But Ditko went full on objectivist, right?
By that point,
he would have. He had trouble getting work, but that's because there were other issues.
I mean, that objective view is good for some characters, but you don't want a whole world view with it.
But the whole point was, I mean, now if somebody did that, they'd be run out of the business, right?
Unfortunately.
Now, it did happen. I mean, there were people like Dave Sim back in the day who got a really rough ride for his politics, but that was more recent.
Right.
There have always been political divides in comics. It's just
how much do you do a fair balance of it? How much do you tell, does the politics dictate the story, or is it season the story? It's a seasoning.
I think it's too easy to blame social media for the behavior of people on social media.
Oh, I'm not saying it's all the blame on
No,
social
no,
media.
no. I know.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm saying that it's what opens us to their politics, and that's what causes people's view, the readers' views, to be tainted compared to the old days.
They are so desperate to sell books now that I
Yep, that's true too.
think, and when you consider, I mean, look at the people they're hiring instead of professional comic book writers, right? People like Ta-Nehisi Coates, who I personally am a fan on.
Young artist
Well,
novels. Young adult novels.
Roxanne Gay, these are all people who sort of they have a political bent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder if there's a certain amount of panic in these creators. They think they have to do that too. There has to be a gimmick to sell a book. And
True.
It
all depends on the editor. The editors also matter too. And if the editors aren't going to bother reining them in.
Well, and that's the thing. I really think there should be policies at these companies. Like, look, it's one thing to have your opinions, right? Mm-hmm. Stridently state your opinions on social media if you so choose, but don't fight with your colleagues in public.
Oh no.
Like, you take it outside. You know, I have actually done that with certain creators. I won't name names because
yep, I understand.
But they took a crack at me on Twitter, and instead of firing back in kind, I just DM them. I'm like, what the fuck? And sometimes they were like, sorry, that came off the way. Otherwise, they went full-blown crazy. But the point is, I didn't, it wasn't public. You know, people have the right to have opinions on things and word them in ways that I don't necessarily agree with. That's fine. Exactly. That's their opinion. People have bad times, you know?
Oh, yeah. And the same goes the other way around and this is one thing I personally have believed when I look at it. And this is a big problem with a certain community, the CG community, is that it's this notion of that we demand respect, but we're not going to give respect to them. We're going to be assholes, but claim we're criticizing them. And that's been happening since the early days, where they would they would tag them in, be hostile. And then when the other person hit back, they're like, see, look what they did. No respect. We reject.
Okay, but in fairness, they got that. That's a copied behavior from left-wing trolls. Right. And that's not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying that I've talked to people in these organizations, and that's what they say, that the woke types, and I say that in quotes because I don't.
Oh, I know.
It's a word that means different things to different people. Oh, yeah. But this is the word they use. The woke types did that, and they got appeased. So we're going to do it too, because fair is fair. And
but the only people that are appeasing on the right is those within their little group, not within the main media. So
I believe that is a sincerely held belief. The thing is, that wasn't what actually made the decision. There were discussions behind the scenes and so on and so forth. So as much as I completely agree with you that kind of behavior, it's not okay when anybody does it. Yeah. I just do want to show some sensitivity.
Oh, I understand.
I understand the anger. I understand the frustration. I don't have to agree with what people do about it to validate that feeling. If that makes any sense.
I do get it. I do. I'm sorry if I'm keep cutting you off. I'm just trying to say I do agree. I do that sometimes. I'm sorry.
No, you've got a bunch of you've got background shenanigans going on too. So I'm impressed you can follow it. Yeah. But I mean, and this is sort of me going, we're all weaned on a medium where when two characters meet for the first time, they fight. Okay. Oh, yeah. We've sort of been.
Did you see that? I just want to say this before I forget. Gail Simone put it best. Yes, they fight, but the real story is what happens before and after. The fight's just a fight.
Except that's what's been lost, right?
Oh yeah, that has
it's not. I actually think that maybe the superheroes show up and fight is a trope that needs a rest, just because there is this expectation online that
Other dogs gain.
People think that the way you start a conversation with somebody is you make so much noise that they have to notice you.
No, of course not. I just go up to someone and say, "Hi." That's all I do.
Right. But there are people that, I mean, I've had this experience again and again and again since Revelations dropped. You're a liar. You're disingenuous. You're dishonest. And I'm like, prove it, prove it, prove it, prove it. Well, I guess I can't prove it. So the thing about Tila, and it's like, no. We're not going to have a nice chat here.
No.
You started off with this personal. You now don't get rewarded for that.
Exactly.
And they're shocked.
Yes. And they seem, and it's like, well, again, it's that notion of they expect them to be shown respect, but not the other way around.
I actually think it's inside out. They have never actually known respect. That is how they're treated, right? At home, at work, at school, everywhere, they're abused and they're expected to say, please, sir, please, ma'am, or please, whatever, can I have another? And so it's normalized. And so at the same time that they're going, I want respect, damn it, they don't actually know what it looks like because they've never experienced it. And I have a huge amount of compassion for that because I used to be that. And it's a conscious choice to be different. It's a conscious choice to not hit back or not hit first because you're afraid you're going to get hit. It's really, really, really hard sometimes. And I admit that thing you said earlier about knowing that they're just waiting to bait me so they can show that tweet where I gave back out of context. That is a lot of what holds me back. And it's really exhausting.
Oh, yeah. Because then you see it for years. They will bring it up for years and years. Like, I still, and how many times I'm like, first you do it within the first, like a week or so, you're like, okay. When they bring it back a year later saying, see, this is why we don't forgive them. That was how many years ago?
I mean, the reality is you're not forgiving. So don't expect forgiveness, right? If you're going to be that unforgiving, you have to expect that every single terrible thing you have done is going to be held against you for the rest of your life.
And that's exactly what's happened with the community. Is that they did so many bad things, but they still think we're not the bad guys. They're the bad guys. And it's like, you're both the bad guys, I say.
Devil's advocate here, though. I can understand why people feel that way when media are still dropping the word Gamergate in things. It was 6 years ago.
And I'm not going to argue that. You are absolutely it's like Comicsgate started up again. Now, granted, this recent time they brought it themselves, but for a brief time, like a month or so ago, the other side brought it up out of the blue, and you're like what the?
It's juvenile. It's juvenile. You cannot say you want to move on from things. You cannot say you want positive change and then keep hitting those buttons because
you do that just so you can get the clout points of like, I'm calling them outie, so that means you guys are going to like me, right? And they're like, some might, some will be like, nope, you got to do more.
It's definitely virtue signaling to an extent, but I don't respect that because
me neither.
I think that at least I feel and think if I'm right about something, right, I don't have to get angry about it. I can advocate my case. A lot of people misconstrue me just having fun with something and getting all crazy and arguing it passionately. It's that thing you said about I do have kind of male mannerisms.
I was just talking about with SJW.
No, but I mean that comes from somewhere, right? The reason it's so fun with that character is like I can do the taking up space, right?
Before I forget, is he supposed to be smaller than the princess? Because that in the recent episode, the second, not the most recent that's released episode, it looked like to the moment where he's shorter than her. Is that intentional?
She's got very big shoes.
Okay, so that's why. That's why. It did look like a bit of like little boy type of thing almost. He's not.
There sometimes gets a weird perspective going on with the green screen, where weird things happen on the edge. Oh, there, I'm back.
I know. Actually, I hit the wrong thing.
Okay. Sometimes some weird perspective things happen with the camera I'm using, and I in in the footage, and I'm like, well, shit. But yeah, I mean, Princess Weapons wig is very large, and that She-Ra inspired headpiece is quite big too. So Beelzebub's quite tiny, which is funny. But yeah,
I love her. She's just so.
Beelzebub, the origin of that character was people being utterly terrible to me.
Yeah.
That character came out of Gamergate when I was called literally the devil by Zoe Quinn.
Yep, I saw that on your interview with Tristan. I saw
that. Yeah, and there's an example of, well, I felt like that was really profoundly unfair. First of all, way to invoke gingerphobia. You go on and go like unburnt witch and invoke all those things and then call somebody else the devil. And I'm like, well, I can be angry about this, which isn't going to do any good, or I can have some fun with this and turn it into something that will give people positive.
Yeah,
you turn it into something that can bring people joy. And so I'm like, okay, who would this be? Who would the embodiment of literally the devil be? Well, obviously a well-endowed woman, right?
Obviously.
I mean, but somebody who is, and it was like a combination of like Miss Piggy, Hyacinth Bouquet from Keeping Up Appearances, and Elvira. That's what I'm going to go
definitely.
for.
I definitely got the Elvira vibe for both the one reason and the other.
Yeah, and I mean, there are a couple other little references in there, but in the final episode of Boss Fight, Beelzebub actually sings. There's another musical number at the end.
Yep.
I had to figure out how Beelzebub sang. She'd never sung before.
Oh yeah,
and
that's a good point.
It was a challenge.
I love your vocal range as well with your stuff, especially when you do the princess and then you do.
I have to credit my buddy Mouse Mary Jest for that, because he does the music beds for the musical numbers and he really kicks my ass. He's Social Justice Warrior's voice on episode 2. The ladies and gentlemen, the opera stuff. He's a classically trained lyric tenor in the bel canto tradition, and he does this stuff and it completely kicks my ass. It's like that's a 4-octave song, and whenever he gives you something, I'm like, shit, Mouse, but it's good because it's good to have creative partnerships that push you. And I mean, there's an example of, you don't see Boss Fight as a woke show, right? You don't see it as political,
not at all.
But
I look at it as like a little. I should try to find the right way of describing it, actually, because it's
madcap, it's goofy, it's silly, it's frothy, right?
You have both the teaching segments, but then you have all this other type of stuff that kind of makes your point, but you're doing it in a way that's so farcical
it was the whole point. Is if I just sat there lecturing people for 30 minutes at a time, it would be very woke and it would be very political. But when you've got the embodiment of the redemption of Princess Peach going on there, you don't have to woke scold people, right? When you've just got a trans guy who's like so low man on the totem pole, and the poor guy. The poor guy decided he was trans, and so now he has to embody male privilege. Like, the poor fucker, right?
Oh, yeah, that bit when he's explaining his backstory.
Yeah,
and that's how he survived, was going off of his privilege. It's like
he survived by bashing himself in the head, so nobody else did it. That is such. One could say that's an incredibly heavy-handed political statement, but it was.
I got what you're going for. It
was told as a story. I mean, the social justice bard originally being the social justice minstrel. That's so odd. And he's just a Black Lives Matter fist, because I was not going to play that character.
Right.
But, like, all that stuff is political references, but I'm not. Like, to me, the line, and that's why I'm so fascinated in this whole politics versus telling a story thing. I don't require anybody to agree with any of those characters, right? They all have very different points of view, right? And because you've got I mean, Zarkazan, who's the villain, but she was the toughest one because I didn't want her to be just.
Wait! You said you weren't going to tell me who the final boss was.
Well, I didn't want her to just be wretched,
Right.
Like she's in episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
You introduce her, and she's vile. She's abusive, right?
Yeah.
She's a terrible person.
Mm-hmm. I liked each of the villains. I liked each of them, especially the second one, the one
Anne Reardon.
Yeah, it was like,
and you know where that name's from?
I think so.
Atlas Shrugged.
Yep, as I say, Anne Ryan, right?
Hank Reardon's wife was named Anne Reardon, so we made a ruthless capitalist an Ayn Rand character.
Yep.
Right, and I mean those drawings were so over the top. Poor Mouse was like, Judith, really? Yeah. I mean,
but I love though that her secret weakness is show tunes. I'm like, I know where this is going.
Because I don't know if you've ever met those high-powered female CEOs that are just kind of ruthless and sort of came up in the 70s. They all love freaking show tunes, man.
You know what? That's a good point. That is a very good.
It's Hello Dolly, because Anne may or may not be a closet lesbian. We haven't figured that out yet. But, it's that little thing of women like that who have to shed their femininity for work. They have these very, very girly things that they're super interested in, right? But all of that, I mean, people could claim that's a political screed, but I was very careful to present it in a way that's just so fucking stupid. That's
why I love the end of the violence one, where it pretty much ended almost very My Little Pony like, with friendship and everything. And
well, I mean, was that Serenity Sunflower?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
you had the Shao, whatever.
Shao Kind. That was episode 3. Yeah.
I love that one. How it's very much like, let's take a selfie and everything, and it's like.
Well, the whole idea is that Princess Sparkle Muffin solves everything non-violently, right? That was a big challenge, is we don't want to change who Princess Sparkle Muffin is. We're actually going to do the whole thing of, people like, well, why can't the damsel save herself? And it's like, well, okay, somebody like Princess Sparkle Muffin isn't just going to start kicking down doors.
Oh, no, she's not going to just change who she is. That's what I like about was Peach. The times when she does it,
right.
When she has, like in Paper Mario and everything, when she just wanders and all that, or even the closest she ever got was in Mario RPG. But even that, though, she just got more aggressive in her attacks, but it's not that far up from what she would do in Smash.
Yeah, but I mean, Peach, like, that's the thing. She solved the first one with her massive alcohol tolerance that she got from binge drinking with the Evil Queen and Lady Bits. And another one would be her love of musical theater and adventuring hats. And, 3 is kittens and ice cream. We had to find all these kind of solutions. And the cool thing about that show is that when it was backed, people could pay at a certain tier. It was $75, so it wasn't like ridiculously expensive for people, but people voted on the story twists. I gave them an option of 3 bosses for each episode, and they voted on those. One had to go to a second round because it was
which one was that one?
It was Dolores Faye, I think. On episode 4. But that was, I'm like, I'm going to surrender control to the audience.
How many creators do that? How many creators do that? Like you said earlier, you did not expect Social Justice Warrior to stay the status quo.
I was sure they were going to have Princess Sparkle Muffin break bad, and I was sure they were going to give Social Justice Warrior.
I'm not surprised on her not breaking bad. I'm not surprised on that one. But with that Social Justice Warrior, I was expecting especially when you wrote
this black PVC outfit.
I could so tell when you were writing
Princess Sparkle Muffin. I was ready for her to break bad, but no, it was pretty disturbing.
I can't tell in your writing though for that one. I could so tell in your writing though for Social Justice Warrior, you were building up to that moment and then it just swerved. But the other one, I couldn't tell. I could definitely tell going either way. in that was
The,
Princess Sparkle Muffin.
the challenge with Princess Sparkle Muffin is she's sweet. She's not dumb.
Yeah.
So
people mistake that all the time. Like they always think Peach stupid, Zelda smart. It's like Peach is a ruler still. She's still when she's not kidnapped, she is still. I mean, you want dumb. You want to know someone that's dumb? The princess from Mario 2006. You know the that one. She was Eileen. She was dumb.
More and more, I just feel like Peach gets such a bad rap because I mean, Princess Sparkle Muffin.
She rules a country. She does extreme sports. She takes part in fighting tournaments and all that. If you count them all as canon.
We also only see Peach in her public appearances, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what are royals supposed to do? They're supposed to just smile and wave, right? They're never, they're never supposed to let anybody see them sweat. And we don't actually see.
Oh, geez, I hate to be Toadsworth. I'd hate to be him. Oh, the old one. That's Toadsworth, right?
Yeah. I mean,
like how many times did she cry to him? I wonder.
Probably, right? Like we don't see her behind the scenes.
There's probably a side Mario never sees even.
Well, that's why I had Princess Sparkle Muffin be a bit of a lush because she's very sheltered. You know, there was that's coming up in episode 5, Princess Sparkle Muffin's backstory. But you know, she didn't get out much because she was always being captured. So, you know, increasing levels.
So more often than Peach did, I take it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the whole thing. She's always being captured. And so then when, you know, social justice warriors captured, she'd just do this. It'll be easy, you know? And
not giving good advice.
Well, kind of though.
No. I was being funny.
But I mean, I'm glad you got that because finding the balance on that show. Part of
it helps I rewatched it, binged it before today, right now.
Part of the reason I wanted to do it is to show it could be done.
You've shown it.
You could have topical themes in something without it just being fucking preachy. And there is a Charlie Brown's Christmas speech, I call it, with Princess Sparkle Muffin in the last episode because I thought it was more poignant to come from the damsel in distress than to come from me as a host. I thought it would be a more powerful moment to have this horribly maligned character trope just have 5 minutes to talk relatively uninterrupted, right? It's like giving back a voice.
She still has her squeaky voice though, right?
Oh yeah, she's Gracie Allen.
Right.
She's Gracie Allen. That's why I say I don't get it. You know, like it's always that it's Marilyn Monroe, it's Gracie Allen, it's the straight man. Where it's like, say goodnight, Gracie. Good night, Gracie. You know,
technically that's from the parody. She never said.
She never actually said it.
People mix that up. It's like, no, that was from a spoof. She just goes, good night.
Yeah, good night. Yeah, but I mean, with
I'm sorry. That's. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Yeah, that's the nerd in me. Yeah, you know, just wanting to correct that.
There's so many. There's lines in Casablanca that people quote that they never say in Casablanca,
or Star Trek, even
Star Trek. Yeah.
It's just like, that's why it took into William Shatner doing the novels and he did the audiobooks for finally hear him say, "Beam me up, Scotty."
Yeah.
He never said that specifically until that audiobook.
It was funny. I had an English professor who utterly loathed Star Trek because it popularized a split infinitive.
Hey, you know what? I wonder how teachers got pissed off at like Back to the Future with gigawatt being gigawatt, or Looney Tunes with Daffy forever changing despicable, you know, whatever it was originally called to despicable, because that's all people know it as now is despicable because of Daffy.
Do you have anybody who's still in the GIF fight?
I go both. I say both.
Yeah, because there are some people. I mean,
hold on a sec.
Phone call.
Ignore it. Oh.
Okay. I don't want to go over your Streamlabs limit.
No. I still got more
whatever
time.
the
I still got more
streamer.
enough time, and it won't cut me off in the middle of
Okay,
this.
let's do one more topic so we don't go over.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I was actually I had a few more. I was gonna just a few more. I was gonna bring up actually.
Okay, but let's see how it goes.
Okay, but I'm just remember what it was now. One thing you and I were talking about in DMs before that I just thought it'd be funny to bring up. I just find it. You played Maneater, right? Have you played it, or you know
I'm
it?
aware of it. I have not played it.
I just want to say it here. It is just so hilarious that you have a female shark, but it's just like you just imagine telling one of the extreme fan of it. It's like, oh, there's this new female video game character. She will devour men literally. She will shred them to pieces. She will evolve into a stronger. She could become this small being into this big, muscular thing. And then you're like, here she is. It's a shark.
Yeah.
Shark. I know, but you would just catch them all because the funny thing about that game, it's not important. It's just something for the narrator saying she. Yeah. And the only time it was relevant was her mother because obviously gets killed and then the baby's ripped right out and that's you. So
though I would claim that it is more relevant than Chell's gender was in Portal. That used to drive me crazy that people like, oh, female video game characters. Like, how is it relevant? You never fucking see her.
Except, the only time you would, see her is that one trailer where you see her running around the shoes. And
it's the Half-Life thing. The playable character makes no sounds.
But at least with Half-Life, you would see, I just forgot his name now.
Gordon Freeman.
Yeah, Gordon Freeman on the box, at least. The only time you ever saw Chell was her back.
Yeah, and so I'm like, why are they getting credit for female inclusion in a character you never see? You know, GLaDOS is more significant than
I love GLaDOS. But I specifically love potatoes. When she's stuck in the potato and she starts to develop Caroline.
Okay, let's face it though, there would be no GLaDOS without Shodan.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. I am Shodan.
Yeah.
Which I gotta say, I cannot wait for the remake whenever it comes out. The fact that that's my most viewed interview in a while, but it's the most. I'm getting so many downvotes for it because the remake's not out yet. Try me a river.
Okay, let me just say something. I don't know the details of this other than I know that there's a System Shock remake coming out and it's taking
by the Night Dive guys. Yeah.
The last year and a bit, I've lost track. It's actually more than that now with COVID. It's more like, well, it was 2 winters ago. They have been strangely difficult for creators. People think, oh, you can work from home. It's not that hard. Anything you need, like something as simple as envelopes to mail out like t-shirts or the most notably the photo mailers so it can mail out the art prints for Boss Fight. I have had to get those off of Amazon because they haven't been in stock in the stores because of shortages. And every time that happens, that's
there's always a person who will then say, oh, it's so easy. It's like, how is it easy? How is it
when you're trying to like stuff envelopes in spare time, right? Well, you lose 2 days, you've lost that window for another week, right?
Oh yeah.
And so I get the frustration when something is late. I back the Long Dark. I feel that pain.
Isn't that still in development with the campaign at least? Like they've only gone up to like 3 days, I think, with that.
Yeah. It's really late.
There's some other games I know like that as well where they're still developing. I mean, at least with something like Postal 4, at least that's in early access where they're doing it in an episodic format.
The thing about Kickstarter funded games is they announce way early in the development cycle because they need money. Oh, right. Yeah. And so it's not
even alpha build.
Yeah, because you have to do it. You don't have any money. Right? Exactly. You have to make it for no money. And
that's why I like Brock Investigator. He was more ahead of it before he started the campaign.
Yeah, if people are willing to put some of their own change into it, that's one thing. But a lot of people don't have the money to put in. I've worked on Kickstarter funded games, and part of the problem is you just find out about them much slower much
Mhm.
earlier in the development cycle. The other
Oh yeah.
thing though is that they want to make a really good game. Like this isn't the publisher pushing it out the door. They want to make sure it's ready. And I get people's frustration. Like I said, I back the Long Dark.
Yeah.
Um,
Not
but
everything, but sometimes you get a Mighty Number 9. Other times you get Bloodstained and Shovel Knight, where they released it, but they're still adding up on the promises they've made.
yeah, they're still picking away at it. And I mean, it's a different choice for everybody. I think I know my backers are like, we don't care about the t-shirt as much as getting the show finished. So if in doubt, finish a show and then do the fulfillment,
Oh yeah.
which is what I ended up doing. I mean, I got stuck with Boss Fight very simply because I had to have art prints made and all the copy facilities got shut down
Yeah.
for COVID for like 6 months. And
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't gonna Vista print that, right? Like I
Oh
wanted
yeah.
to make sure it's a Frank Cho print. I wanted to make sure the
Oh
quality
yeah.
of the paper was decent. I wanted to make sure the
Mm-hmm.
quality of the image was decent. You know,
Yeah,
I
it's
wanted
Frank
to make
Cho.
sure.
It's Frank Cho. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's people backed it. They don't give a shit about Boss Fight. They just want that, right?
Oh
And
yeah. And
so
which is why I can say when I backed the System Shock, I just backed the digital copy. So I can see why there's some people who are more pissed off. But when they start saying it's a kick scammer, it's like, have you watched the kick scammer YouTube show and everything that Daniel Everson does?
well,
Yeah,
you
those
said
are real scammers.
he said he's still in communication. You said he's still in communication with his
Yeah,
base though. Like
yeah,
he's telling them what development's getting done. And
exactly. But it's not to their liking of how fast and everything. It's just like, guys, come on. And he even said on my interview that he's trying to avoid crunch time as much as he can. Like, so he's letting them people do it. But it's like people, and I even said this to him, people take for granted what crunch time has given us. I think people have taken for granted, gamers have taken for granted. Like they will complain about crunch time, but they don't realize the end result that they got
oh,
with other games.
and having been crunched,
Mm-hmm.
there's no, because it's not just exhaustion and
Yeah.
it's not just stress. It is both. And when
Mm-hmm.
I came off a really bad crunch, a friend of mine in the industry gave me the best piece of advice ever. He said, make no decisions about your next move for 2 weeks.
Funny enough, Night Dive came about after a post-crunch release. Did you know
Yeah,
that? Did you know that was Stephen King? That he and his wife
I did.
were, yeah, they were doing crunch for Sony, and then they said, let's take some time off, let's go around the world.
Yeah.
And then at one point, he had all these old games that he loved, and then he tried to install System Shock 2, couldn't. And he's like, this needs a change. We need some way to modernize it. Who has the rights?
Yeah.
And he found out it was some insurance people that got it from when Looking Glass went up. And you're just like, what are the odds of them doing anything with it? But then you get a case like No One Lives Forever, where good luck getting that when you have Fox, Warner Brothers, and Monolith and everything. You're just like, no way in hell you're going to get those three people in a room to hash it out.
Yeah, no, it's crunch is brutal.
Oh yeah,
and
it is.
So
when you're avoiding crunch, it's going to take slow as,
It's also just they're probably using a smaller team.
Oh yeah. This is
So
their
they
only
can
in develop. This is their only in develop. All the others are for the ports.
Yeah, and I suspect they're probably also they're trying to minimize burns, so they're paying for your people, you get quality control that way. And then sometimes things just go wrong. If you do like an engine switch,
which they did
mid-development.
Thankfully, that one was caught early enough. That was after the first year. But yeah, from doing it in 2016, saying it was going to be ready by December 2017, that was a pipe dream. When you're remaking System Shock, that's a pretty big game.
To me, the most undervalued job in game dev are those of producers, and indie games don't have those, right? Because they're the ones that sort of are going around. They're not working on the game per se. Well, they're going around and going, are you on track? What do you need?
Which is why when you see someone like Kenji Ikafube or Inafube, it's like, oh, I'm not going to have to deal with those people. yeah, I can see now, given how much you blew on Mighty Number 9, and now you're already ready to do the next project and an anime off of that. You needed someone who would tell you no. It was the
Well,
George Lucas effect in his case. Was Mighty
it's
Number 9?
producers, you got to be careful when you say no in that
Oh no! Oh
role.
no!
But
Like
it is
you don't want to say it to Kojima. Kojima, you want to say no to a point, but don't tick him off saying no.
Kojima's Kojima. I would love to work with that guy just to see what it's like. Like I was one of those people who just loved Death Stranding because it was just so like this came out of one guy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very obvious. And I don't know if you follow him on Twitter. His Twitter
Nope.
feed is just so delightfully weird. Like I just he's one of those guys where he is very much a nerd, but he's so unafraid to be himself that he just sort of exudes cool.
He does, which is part of why someone like Guillermo del Toro works so well with him, because he's the same way with movies.
Well, and that, I mean, those were all favors, right? Like that was all, hey guys, Konami's cut me loose. Now what?
I was talking about they were working on Silent Hills.
Well, oh yeah, the movie, yeah, but I mean that was all
the game. They were working. Del Toro was working on
the game.
Was
working on Silent Hill.
Hills.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Oh, that's
they were working together on Silent Hills, and then it fell apart, and that's part of the reason why he went along with doing Death Stranding, because well, we're not doing this, let's do that.
I mean, I don't know how they pitched that to Norman Reedus, but Matt, they were. Did you play that game? The performances in that game were actually it's ridiculous and it's absurd, but the performances were just so good in it.
It's one of those things where you love the effects, but if you're actually doing it for the game, I don't know if I said this to you, but I've said this elsewhere. Sometimes I will do a cheat trainer on games just for the story mode.
Sure, I quite frankly enjoyed the gameplay in Death Stranding, but remember I said you gotta skip it if you're not in the mood for it.
Yeah.
If you want something that's very action shoot 'em uppy, it's not that. It has to be. You have to be in a mood where Shadow of the Colossus hit me the same way. It's those long periods of solitude are part of the experience, right?
And I can see why some people develop that following, but at the same time, it's like
you got to be in the mood for it. I wouldn't want to play it all the time.
Like Dark Souls as well. That's another thing where you need that right mindset to be in.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yes,
because those guys could be judgmental as well, though. The people, the fan base, it's like
Dark Souls. I found the Dark Souls fan base wonderful.
No, I'm saying they can be if you're that nasty about it. Is what I'm saying. Trying to say is if you are like the whole actually derailing one other thing. Since I'm reminding now, where do you stand in the whole journalist easy mode? Like that one woman just like a little while ago doing that video where like. Forget it, you or whatever. It was just like, really?
I am a 42-year-old woman with an autoimmune disease that causes problems in my hands. If I can play Cuphead and, do okay, get good. This is not an accessibility issue.
Especially when you're a journalist. You should be playing it.
I get when the deadlines on reviews are very, very short. And if they don't give you enough time to play a very difficult game, that is a fair criticism, but that is what you put in your review, right? They did not give me, this is a difficult game. I did it. And it's like, they did not give me enough time to review this game. This is what I've got so far, but I'm going to tell you now, I'm not finished this when, and they let people update them. But if they're not giving journalists enough time to finish a difficult game, that's not the problem with the game. That's the PR marketing. But no, I as somebody who does have, I couldn't finish Bloodborne because there was too much strafing. It was physically painful for me. I didn't have the same problem with Sekiro for the most part. But completion rates on games are in the toilet, even relatively easy ones like Assassin's Creed.
Just follow achievements on Steam. You find out there's so few games that have actually been completed.
Right. Right. The completion rates are low to begin with. So what is this easy mode thing? Like
Exactly. I mean,
if
and especially it's when I say this, my issue is not so much of a journalist saying that, and they make that clear. And if they get dumbed down, then that's not fair. But if they're being smug about it, saying like, "Give me easy mode," you're like, you don't even want to play. You're not in this for the gaming. You're just doing the reviews because that's a side job for your articles.
What I don't like is they do it on the backs of people with disabilities.
Oh yeah.
And that is the issue I have. You're not talking about disability accessibility. Some of the best gamers I know are people with
The ones who figure
disabilities,
out
right?
ways, the ones who figure out ways, and they somehow master it better than normal players.
Well, I mean, some people buy like the adaptive controllers and stuff like that. They really go all in. Able gamers, helps people do stuff like that. This isn't a disability accessibility thing.
No, it is as an excuse. Yeah.
I had to use a disability mode on The Last of Us 2 just because the game was too fucking dark. I couldn't see anything. And I turn it on and now I'm a red blob fighting a blue blob. It's like this isn't accessibility. This is like this isn't the game anymore. It was such a ridiculous, but they won a ton of awards for that. And I'm like,
yeah, they had to make up one as well just to make sure it got the award for most awards.
The only thing that made that one level hard is you couldn't see fuck all. The minute you could actually see the walls, it was a piece of cake fight. So it's like,
I mean, I've only done 2 reviews on my channel. The AVGN Deluxe edition, so it was 1 and 2, and I spent most of that review talking about the differences between the original version and the deluxe edition.
Right.
And I don't know if you've heard this one, Cthulhu Saves Christmas.
Yes, I have heard of that.
Yeah, it's a prequel to Cthulhu Saves the World, and it's so fun, but it's also super easy. So I have not been in the part where I have to do something hard. If I had to do a Mass Effect Legendary Edition review,
that's just long. Like, those are the games that it's like, oh my god, so long.
That's why I do cheat train, just so I can speed along and get to the story beats and not. I mean, I'm 100% completionist at the same time, though. So
that's why I haven't played Valhalla yet. Is I know it's like a 60-hour experience, and I don't have that in me right now.
Well, then you like Man-Eaters. It's a 10-hour experience.
See, that's my speed right now.
If you go for 100%, is what I'm saying. It's if you go for that.
RimWorld dropped. Yeah. RimWorld dropped DLC, and so now I'm back down that rabbit hole.
Oh, by the way, in one of your other boss fights, I did love how you brought up Guybrush Threepwood, because you know there's so many people who know who that is, but then there's others who are like, who?
Yeah, that's a
shame. That's a shame.
The whole Guybrush Threepwood paradox argument. I mean, I love those old adventure games, right? The LucasArts and
Dominic Armato with his voice. He is so Guybrush. You can't think of anyone else.
Yeah, and I mean the old Sierra games and things like that. Yeah. Those games just had a charm to them, but you did play as sort of this, noodly armed guy that wasn't. He's not Doom guy, like
I want to be a pirate. That's all he does.
It's funny to me because Guybrush Threepwood has now been sort of associated with stupidity. And
he was an asshole in the second one. I'll say that he was an asshole.
Yeah, but it's more slapstick as opposed to dumb or incompetent. I find it interesting
and being in over his head. That's what it is.
In over his head, yeah. But I mean, the games were comedies, You're not going to have, square jaw Mick.
Yeah, the only straight person was Carla, the sword woman. Even she had her issues. And Elaine. Elaine was the only straight person beginning to end.
Yeah. Now, it is fair to say that, thanks to the demands on female characters now, you can't really have a female Guybrush Threepwood. She'd be excoriated.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. Funny enough, they were originally going to have it be you could pick your gender, but then they time constraints. They went with just one.
It's too difficult time and probably space constraints back then.
Yeah. But at least you got 3 great female. 4 if you count the voodoo lady. You have Carla, you have Elaine, and if you go by Tails, you have Morgan Le Fay, which I love Morgan. I loved her.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think about it, there aren't that many like name characters in those games to begin with.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
know, they're kind of there for a moment and then they're gone. I am not.
Kate
Yeah,
capsize.
I'm not somebody who thinks that the playable character is necessarily the most important character in a
No.
game. I
How many
think
times
that
they're just there for the show? You know, they're the showman. Everyone around them is the plot. You're just getting from point A to point B.
they're a camera and a pair of hands in a lot of things, right? I mean, we go
They're
back
not
to
all Commander
Portal.
Shepard. They're not all Commander Shepard. Sometimes, yeah, they're Chell or they're Gordon Freeman.
Yeah, or even like I've been impressed with the later Doom games. The Doom
Oh,
games are the only thing that keep me from wanting to burn Bethesda to the ground.
what about Wolfenstein? At least
I
new.
haven't played those.
Oh, I think you might like New Order. New Colossus
Yeah,
would probably tick
okay.
you off. New
It,
Colossus might tick you off, but
it's
New Order and New Old Blood you'd like.
it's been recommended to me. I just it's another shooter
Avoid
too.
Youngblood. Avoid
Okay.
Youngblood.
Okay.
It's a horrible co-op
Oh,
game.
okay. But yeah, I mean, I love the Doom games, and I like the fact that they've given, you know, Doom Marine, as they call him now, more
Or
of a
Doomslayer.
Doomslayer, yeah, more of a personality, if you will. But I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah,
still
it's rip and
very
tear. It's the comic. It's that old comic. The rip and tear, rip
well,
and
you
tear.
know, he doesn't push a button. He punches it, right? He doesn't open a door slowly. It's boom, you know.
Or
He goes in
kicks
a
it,
room up. Yeah.
he doesn't gently open it up.
Yeah.
He smashes it, and he's like,
Yeah.
but he's not all that because of the point like, hold it, and then he's like, okay, what do you have to say?
And
Okay, that's what I thought.
and then there's the picture of the bunny in the gallery, and then it's all the field.
Daisy.
Yeah, Daisy. It's like, ah. And I had forgotten all about that detail, and then it was all back, you know.
Yep. Although then they throw you for confusion when you have the Soul Cube from 3, and you're like, how does 3 figure into this? That was a reboot. But
yeah.
I do love how they made it clear Doom 1, 2, and 64 are all canon.
Mm-hmm.
That I love because
Mm-hmm.
and then you got Doom 64 Sings the Night Dive out now, and you can play it. Plus an added bonus mission that further leads into it. Plus the fan-made episode 0 that basically leads right into the cave-in that captured Doom guy.
Yeah. No, it's. I went into Eternal. I'm like, I don't give a shit if there's a plot or not, and I actually found myself like really compelled by the lore building and the backstory. I didn't need it. I was glad it was there, but
just the idea that the devil was actually God.
Yeah.
Throw that out in the recent stuff, and then then the ending, though, I did not care for that ending. I mean, it's the end.
I don't even remember it. It's all about the experience for me.
You defeat the devil, and then your body shuts down because you needed him to survive.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So is him gone?
But it's Doom, right? You start the game over, and who the fuck cares? At least for me, like. But that's like, there's another example of a game that it is so adrenaline soaked. I gotta play that no earlier than 3 hours before bed. I will not sleep if I play that game at night.
Yeah, exactly. That is one of those games where you're like, yeah, boom, boom, just that moving around and everything. I love games like that. And again, that's a game where you could both do it without a cheat trainer, or in my case, with it. That's why they give you the option for the cheat codes you can unlock. And you do that. It doesn't take away because you're still feeling that power. Because let's be honest, you want an example of a power fantasy, Doom is it.
Right. And there's an example of a game where if they put cheat codes in Dark Souls, I'd be like, get the fuck away from me. But for Doom, it makes sense because it is
they were one of the earliest cases of it.
Well, one of the things that I really loved about Doom Eternal is it had a really, really meaningful depth of field slider. And I use that because the default settings were actually making me feel a bit nauseous, and pulling back it made a big difference. I wouldn't have been able to play the game without it. And see, that's one of those accessibility features that actually matter.
Right.
You know? So yeah. So you said you had another topic. Go. I don't want to.
No. I think that's it. I'm running out, and now the dogs are going nuts. So
yeah, I know that feel before they pee in your house.
Yeah. Oh no. We have the back door open with a door wall, so it doesn't affect the AC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, there's probably neighbors walking around, so I think this is a good time. Not as long as our last one, but close enough. So, again, thank you. We didn't talk that much about He-Man, I realized.
Nothing to talk about. We talked about Boss
Yeah.
Fight, which made me happy because
Oh,
that's next Monday. If
I cannot wait for that.
fingers crossed, it's next Monday.
I'll finish
hoping.
I'll finish the penultimate episode, and yeah,
just in time.
Yep. Also, anyone here, check out. I'm going to get back to my Godzilla retrospective video. I also have a interview with. I don't know if you've heard of this indie adventure game called Crimson Diamond. It's a throwback to the. Oh, you know about it?
I have a pencil holder over there. She's local, Julie Minamata.
Yeah. I'm going to be doing an interview with her on Thursday.
Oh, fantastic!
And I'm still trying. It was going to be Wednesday, but we moved it to Thursday. And I'm trying to get the guy Dave from New Blood.
New Blood. What? Watch it games?
No. New Blood Games. You know, as in Dusk, Medieval. The guys who started the Boomer Shooters again.
Yeah. Okay, I'm behind on those. I'm behind to those.
Yep, and thanks to Stephen Kickdead has been able to get that moving along because he knows the guy. So hopefully I'll be getting that whenever. Problem is he's in New Zealand, so New Zealand time it's like a day ahead and 4 hours. So
if you're wondering what I'm doing, I've got a very demanding cat.
I've been seeing your cat all around. I'm more like a Slimer right now. He's just right. It's just one of those things. Yep, I see Cthulhu, I see E.T., I see Superman, I see the LGM.
All of a sudden, it's Romper Room now. I see Spectre
I see
Wally.
Spectre. I see the Mushroom. I see another Slimer up on the shelf. Stitch. I see Stitch.
Yeah, that's Cthulhu. You don't normally see Fin Fang Foom back there.
Who is that on the middle shelf to your right? So in front where Superman is. It looks like a little white guy with teeth and a blue hat.
That is Mr. Fizzy from Sunset Overdrive.
Oh, okay. Because he was looking like a guy. If he was yellow, he'd be looking like a guy that I just found out Sparkling Sparky or the Spectacular Sparky.
No. Sunset Overdrive is a super underrated game.
Oh, I have it.
Yeah, it's a really good game that kind of got hosed by the slow uptake on the Xbox. What is it? The Xbox One. But if anybody wants to go back, it's so fun.
Oh yeah, I haven't played it yet. It's one of those things. I got so many games. I have yet to get in the mood for each of them. It's like you want to buy them when they're on a good sale, but then you never touch them. You have them installed on your computer. You have, in my case, 4 hard drives worth of games.
Yeah, I keep grabbing the free PS Plus game.
Yep.
And then I've got Plague's Tale sitting here. I haven't played it, but it was free.
Yep. I will say this. The very last thing is that with one thing I've noticed, if you're going to get anything from the Microsoft Game Pass, do not, and make sure it's a battery-powered external drive. Do not have it be one of the ones where you just simply plug it in right to your computer, and that's what powers it. It's slow. For some reason, it is slow on those type of, if you do it to the external drive. Make sure it has a power source. That one will move faster because somehow it just keeps the processing power going. If it's just a straight USB plug-in, it's not going to do so well.
Interesting. Yeah, because everybody's going to need external storage for this generation of systems.
Yep. Even when a simple game like Battletoads kept slowing down.
Really?
I had to get either the Steam version because I didn't have any room on my other drive. So I had to get the Steam version because the Steam version worked fine. But then I found out when I installed some of them on my new external drive I got, playing like a dream. I was able to get through Manhunter with very little issue.
Good to know. All right. It looks like somebody's trying to get your attention there.
My brother. So I got to get going. So.
Okay. This was fun.
Yep. Catch you guys all later. And hopefully we can do another one.
Bye.
Yep. And hey, Nerdette, if you're in the stream, try to get part 4 out. Yep.